This podcast does contain spoilers, so if you're okay with that, listen on. If not, pause the podcast, go watch the movie we're about to talk about, and come on back.
All right, sweet.
Excuse me.
Brandon, over here. Hey.
Pardon me.
Why don't you have the popcorn? It's starting!
Woo! Hey.
Shut up. Shut up and listen to the podcast. Hey!
There's a lot out there to see. This is what we watched.
All right, so we're talking about
what we watched.
Thank you, Geoff. Jeff's getting in the spirit. We got Matthew, that's me. Brandon,
Hey, that's me.
he's waving.
As always.
And Jeff.
I'll wave too.
Yes. I never wave. He always says I'm waving. I never wave.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Break the
Long time
fourth wall.
listener, first time watcher of waves.
It's true. I never wave at you,
No,
the
you
couple that you
First
have.
time
I'm just not
watcher
a, I'm just not a waver. Like,
Definitely
I don't know
thought
what
you were
want
talking
from me.
about audio waves. 100%.
Matt would have gotten that joke.
I would have, if that's what he meant. But that's not what he meant. So that's why I didn't get it. That's why I didn't get it. Okay, so we're talking. This is going to be. So let me do some housekeeping for all the listeners. The couple of them. This is the start of the Last of Us series. The three of us, we loved the HBO series Last of Us. So we decided we're going to start and do more of do a couple episodes at a time. We're more going to go arcs, story arcs. So today we're going to be talking about episode 1 and 2. Then this will come out on Thursday, as you obviously know, because you're listening to it on Thursday.
As you should be.
All the rest, though, after this, we will be doing, episode 3 and all that will come out on a Sunday. So just keep an eye out. Sunday's the bonus day. If I have some House Lives that might come out or Last of Us episodes, those will come out on Sunday. So,
Yeah.
Jeff, keep an eye out on Sunday for you to
I'll be
listen to
there.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As one of our diligent listeners.
If you get a notification on Sunday, your phone is not broken. It's okay. It's not an emergency. You just got to listen to us.
I would like to start this by asking, how do we think everyone would do in the post-apocalyptic zombie world? Because I think, an unpopular opinion.
Okay.
I think Brandon might end up living longest.
Yes.
Ooh.
But I think all of his
why.
allergies and issues with everything has trained him to stay away from people and stay inside. Me, I'll do good at the beginning, but then hubris will fucking get me. Let's be honest.
Yep.
I'll definitely.
You're like, I can take these motherfuckers.
Yes, I totally see that happening.
And then you'll trip over that one fungi, and then the rest of them will come running at you.
That's
Exactly.
what I see happening.
It won't even be. Yeah. The thing is, I think Matt will be fine for as long as he wants to, but then the second he goes outside, he's gonna trip on something and break his neck.
Whoa.
Get a cut that can't, an infection.
Okay.
He's not even going to be destroyed by this.
I was about to say, they'll at least take me down. I'm at least going out by zombie.
That'd be the worst.
That
That's the absolute worst, to not die by zombie. Which, by the way, are we saying zombie? Are we saying infected? Are we saying?
I'm going to say whatever pops in my head because
cool.
I refuse to play their stupid ass game.
Yeah,
Not stupid.
I think the
it's
only
different, but
it might not be stupid. You're right, but I think the only one is Zombieland. I don't know of any. World War Z didn't even say. I don't believe the word
That
zombie.
they were zombies.
Or maybe they were like, don't even say the word.
No, I think World War Z said I thought they said they were zombies, but they're fast zombies, which people don't agree with. They got
Even if they didn't, I think the title alludes to zombie being World War
World War Z. Was it not World War I?
Yes, but yes. I was about to say it, and I was like, wait, am I even saying the right title right now?
No, you nailed it.
Yeah, this is great. I love this. Jeff, welcome on. This is
thank you.
incredible. So this is our first foray into TV. This is not just Apple TV.
Yes,
It's our first foray into
also
a TV
it's the
show.
first time with 3 people.
But it's our first threesome. So
It's been something.
Jeff might sound different than the rest of us, and suck it up, everybody.
just suck it
What
up.
are you implying by that?
You take however you want.
It sounds like there's some implications there. I don't know.
Yeah, if the shoe fits. What?
The other thing is you have to explain to Ryan why he's not the first. I learned it at a very
first
early.
threesome.
Yes.
He was the first on there, though.
I know, first guest and first repeat guest, but I'm pretty sure he was holding out.
Just not happy about that. Yeah, I wasn't bummed about that. Especially, I went out of my way to be like, Jeff is a special guest and Ryan is a host. And then you guys went and recorded and you called him the special guest. I was like, awkward.
And I listened to that. I almost stopped that day.
I'm so sorry.
Almost. But we're so compelling.
I'm done. Unsubscribe. Now we're down to like 7.
Oh no. But yeah, no. So you have to be the one to break it to Ryan why he's not the first.
Sorry, Ryan.
In this. So.
Does he listen? So that's why he's not.
Ryan.
Come on, man.
He won't even know unless you tell him.
That's pretty much it.
Ooh.
Which is weird because I thought that I was the only host who didn't listen.
Yes,
But
I'm the one that's about to come out. I've listened to like 3 or 4 times. Frankly, I'm sick of us.
I'm the special guest that sometimes listens to myself and listens to you guys all the time.
Yeah,
Well,
this is crazy.
you're the most popular. You'll post and tell people that you're on this, and then that will be the most
Right,
most
which is like
downloaded.
people are like, wait, what?
Which I don't know why Jeff's back on before Ryan.
So am I officially a sponsor at this point?
Oh no, I bought you beer, so no.
I also
I
gave you a beer
sponsored-
yesterday.
Well, I had
We're even now.
so. Okay, so Jeff made a.
So this is our first foray into TV.
This is going to be 3.5 hour long podcast.
This is,
We're
we're
never
never,
gonna get through
even going to
Okay,
touch on.
so-
So some housekeeping.
go ahead.
Besides, do you have anything else? Was it just introducing our third voice?
I think that was it.
Okay.
I think
It's a me.
Jeff did make a comment when we were planning this out and be
Mhm.
like, "Well, Last of Us, it's pretty old, so I'm not sure why we're doing it now, so far later." My response is, one, just give everyone an opportunity to watch the whole series, and 2, it's a Last of Us birthday this month.
Oh, is it?
Pedro Pascal's birthday is April 2nd.
Hey, happy
so
birthday.
It'll be close to when we're
Hey.
recording. But then the more important is John Hannon's birthday is the 23rd, which will be closer to when it comes out. So it's, 2 key big movie stars that are in Last of Us.
Yeah.
So we're
All right.
celebrating that.
I thought you were going to say that it's been a while since the game came out, not the TV show, because the game's been out for the last 10 years, I think.
Oh, I have no
Something
idea.
like that,
But
yeah.
that is perfect because we have the full collection of people. I've never played the game.
I've played only part 1.
And Jeff, well,
I've played it all
only once or a couple times?
more than once.
Yeah, that's what I imagine.
Yeah.
Do you when you replay a game, especially like that, do you like to increase the difficulty as you go along?
I do, because then it depends also, because for The Last of Us 1 and 2, you get to go play back again harder and then also keep all your weapons and mods that you already had.
I do like that, but
So-
every time I go back to play, it's like, what's the point? Like I'm
I
too
enjoy
strong
it.
for this.
Yeah. Well, I notice other, kind of like movies, I'll go back and play and then I'll notice other little things again and I'll be like, oh, that's cool. Like, especially with games like these that are so heavily story driven.
Yeah.
You just notice a little detail, like, because you can spelunk around and find the little notes and little Easter eggs that they
Yeah.
kind of leave around in the game.
Is there a lot
world.
of caves in Last of Us?
Oh yeah,
Is that real? It's just odd to use spelunking.
I use that word regularly.
Okay.
Like if I'm spelunking at like a
Am I
grocery
crazy?
store.
Am I crazy or
No,
spelunking is
I
caves,
thought it was.
right?
I thought
might
it was
be
solely.
exclusive.
Okay, that's
It
what I
might
just
be
wanted.
exclusive to caves, but I just, spelunk. I like to.
You have a
spelunk.
lot of Batman stuff,
like
so I
the
guess that
spelunk.
kind of. I like to.
On my dating profile, must love spelunking.
Avid spelunker.
Avid spelunker.
Yeah, careful with that one. You're going to attract the wrong kind of people.
Or the perfectly right people.
Hey, to each your own.
Right?
Whatever.
Exactly. If
Hey,
that's
girl,
what you're
come-
looking for.
Come spelunk with me.
Gross, guys.
A
Okay, so let's
family-friendly podcast. God damn it, Jeff.
get your fucking shit together, guys.
It's the handheld mic. It's getting to me.
I know. I do feel bad that you have to like hold it over there.
I mean, I can feel like a rock star. I can just like change it up and just like really get into it, whatever angle.
not,
can
not
wave
look at
whenever you
people.
want.
I can lay down.
Yes. Yeah.
That is weird. Ooh, I wonder if anyone heard your feet go up.
All
Hiding in
right.
the
So,
shadows.
The Last of Us. Did you guys watch it every episode when it came out, or did you wait to binge it?
I watched each episode as the week came out.
That's awesome.
Stayed
I think I
with it.
watched the first 2, and then I watched as it came out until maybe the last like 4 or something. Then I waited, or I think it was the last 3, and I waited for the finale to come out, and then I binged all 3.
Nice.
Or is it 3 or 4? I forgot exactly what it was.
Yeah, I think once it got to like I binged the first 2 or 3, and then I stayed up on 4 and 5, and then I think I waited till the next 5 came out.
I do prefer to binge, like other than the weekly. I hate the weekly.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
next step from binging is for me is just to make sure I watch it as soon as it comes out. That way it's as fresh as it can be without
Yeah.
Yeah.
binging it, Because then if I do a 2-week period, I'm just like, damn it, I feel like I have to rewatch the previous
well,
episodes.
I agree with that, but I definitely like to get like into the world and keep rolling.
Mhm.
So if I rewatch the last one, the Last of Us, the previous episode, to then roll into the new one. That's at least better, but that is so much that's so much watching. Watching
really
every
is.
single episode twice.
Yeah. Well, and what this show does so well is it really wants you to come back each episode. Like the cliffhangers and the places that they leave their characters off at are really interesting and moral quandaries. Like at the end of episode 2, which we'll get to in a bit, Ellie is just kind of looking, what am I going to do? Which then leaves the audience into what is going to happen next? Where Joel just walked off. So I think that it really does a really good job of making you want to keep going. And when you can't keep going, I see where Matt likes to binge as much as possible, because you really can just keep rolling with it.
One thing I did appreciate that they did was like kind of an old school technique, is that at the end of each episode they kind of teased the next episode that was going to come out, and then when
a trailer for them.
Exactly, and then when you started the newest episode, they gave you the recap of what important features were played.
I don't know about other streaming services, but I think HBO is fantastic about gives you extra content.
Yes.
Now, I wouldn't say so much extra content, but it's like they'll give you a recap, they'll give you what happened before, they'll give you also inside the episode.
Yeah.
Which one of the points I noticed from episode 1, like they mentioned it in the inside, and I was like, oh, that was fascinating, because I didn't notice it at the time, but as soon as they pointed it out, it was fantastic.
Yeah.
They have a podcast, not as good as ours, obviously.
Obviously.
Yeah.
But other than that, but they still do give you some extra, because like Netflix doesn't do that.
Right.
That I know of, at least.
Yeah. Every so often you'll see something like behind the scenes, but it's usually kind of like with before Dungeons and Dragons. It's kind of this little expose. It's a 15-20 minute little segment where it really doesn't do a whole lot of the behind the scenes or talking about the making of or anything like that. It's more of hey, don't forget this thing exists kind of way to draw people to whatever show they're watching. So I agree that HBO has content, but also what I love about it is they give you the option to skip the intro and the outro. You can just either, get into the episode, skip through the credits, and especially when you're in binge mode, then you don't have to always see that.
Yeah. How often have you guys been watching the intro to Last of Us? It feels so Game of Thrones also.
Very much so.
Like the intro, the music and everything, it really felt like the Game of Thrones intro.
Very much so. I see that.
Whoever made that, they're like, start here. And now do your own thing.
I think
make it fungus.
I usually let those play because for whatever reason, as soon as I hit play, I'm like, oh crap, I forgot to grab something from the fridge. So then I just let it roll, and then I just go do what I need
it's
to.
It's a good buffer.
Like, okay,
it's a good
now I'm ready.
I know how long the song is.
Somehow it just works out.
You're just singing it in your head. No, that's Game of Thrones.
No. The other HBO. The other smash success.
Okay, so I want to.
But so I listened to the intro once, and then I skipped through it. But I do like that.
Just it always, or just them specifically?
It depends.
Did you notice the little features in the designs of the fungus,
Yes,
like the heads, and then the two of them standing? And
yes,
okay,
and the artistry and the attention to detail is fantastic.
Yeah,
I really do love creative intros like that. Like with Shrinking, it kind of throws me into the episode. Like it kind of grounds me and gets me ready for it.
Interesting. Shrinking, I've not watched that intro since the first one.
Same with Ted Lasso. Ted Lasso, I like it's a quick snippet of it. It's quick but it also kind of gets us ready for the tone of the show. Whereas The Last of Us
isn't the longest one in the world, but
I don't know. There's something about it. Like
I did tend to watch most of them just by just sitting there and not wanting to skip it for whatever reason.
Once I realize that an intro changes and evolves throughout either the seasons or throughout each episode, sometimes they'll do that. Then I'll kind of start going back through it again. Like, oh, are they going to tease something? Or like with Titans, I think, which is also on HBO Max, we'll do the same thing with Titans. Yeah, it's based on Teen Titans, but it's like the adult live action dark
Doom Patrol.
Pretty much.
Yeah, probably similar.
Well, Doom Patrol is something different. Doom Patrol for life.
But yeah, so they
Brendan Fraser's a little robot in it. Alan Tudyk is in the first season. He's Mr. Anyways.
You're talking season. I was definitely thinking the movie. I'm like, I don't
Doom Patrol?
remember. Yeah.
Is there a movie?
I thought so.
Like super old kid one?
I think so.
No, there's a series with Brendan Fraser in it and
gotcha.
Other humans that I don't know off the top of my head. But that one's pretty good too. Yeah. Anyways, you said you referenced this and I derailed you?
Yes, Titans. Is their intro kind of does a little bit
like Teen Titans?
Like Teen Titans.
Oh, okay, cool.
Doom Patrol?
Doom Patrol? You know Doom Patrol?
Yeah, like the movie.
Wait, I thought there was a
Shit,
show.
this is gonna be
I
that.
thought there was a
Focus. What were you saying?
the intro
this better
changes.
be a great point.
Yeah. It really wasn't. It wasn't. I was ready to move on, but you brought it back up.
You brought
No,
it back
so
up,
the
bitch.
intro changes and gives a little kind of
Screw you.
snippet of
That's fucking rude, right, Jeff?
what the
Yeah,
episode
came out
is
of
going to
nowhere.
be about.
Thank you, Jesus.
I will just start talking louder and longer.
Okay.
Okay, so The Last of Us was created by Craig Mazin and Neil Druckmann. Neil Druckmann also created the game, The Last of Us, which was a PlayStation Studios video game. That was something I didn't know. I thought it was Naughty Dog.
It is
It is Naughty Dog.
That's what I thought?
That's
Okay.
I think that's the game company, but
I'm sure
Sony
they-
is probably like the bigger
production company
overall
or-
distributor
Yeah,
kind
I
of
was gonna
thing.
say.
Oh, okay.
It is Naughty Dog.
Because it is an exclusive PlayStation game.
Which-
Yeah, I mean, it used
at the
to.
time,
I
yeah.
assume.
PC
I
now.
can't imagine it's now.
Oh, now it's PC.
PC as well.
Nothing's exclusive at this point. Let's be honest.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right.
So
I really know. I
really stumped.
100% had to think about that because the show used to be. Now it's not.
The show. Oh,
MLB.
baseball.
MLB. Yes.
I thought he was saying the Last of Us show.
Yes, it's a
I was
PlayStation
like,
exclusive.
I was like, Last of Us? What's that on? So the show starts off with I want to talk about, before we start talking about the rest of the episode, I want to stick with the first like intro, the flashback in general. But then specifically, we'll talk right off the bat. I think they have a beautiful like homage and tribute because in the studio to one of the greatest franchises, and it's a callback to what really started all this, zombies, realistically, and they have John Hannon in it, which you all know. Like, that's the callback to the franchise that really started everything, right?
which is
Well, he's Jonathan in The Mummy. The
Oh.
Mummy,
Right.
The original
Yeah,
zombie. I mean, clearly
The
that started everything. The Mummy Returns. Yeah. Dr. Newman is
I'm just gonna let you go ahead and
Dr. Newman in the studio is Jonathan from
from the movie.
I
so-
did not.
So clearly,
yeah,
and it's going to be his birthday soon too. So it's April 23rd. So, anyways,
trying-
Jeff wanted to say something about
No,
that.
I was trying to place that was where is that actor in the entire episode? I completely forgot that was.
I didn't
he's-
even recognize him.
He's
I'll be
the
honest.
No, that's a fair.
Yeah.
Well, you're dead inside because you can't quote.
'Cause I don't watch the Mummy. I can
Yeah.
quote them as more of the Mummy than you think I can.
Ooh,
I used to rewatch the first one a lot. So
back in
whenever
the good
when
old
I've heard
days,
you
now the shitty
when I've
days.
heard you saying it on the podcast, it's reminiscent of
No,
like I'm
number
just like
two's
playing
really
it back
good,
in my
too.
head.
Yep, right. Number two.
Where are we in the plot?
The plot, I think I don't
The
know.
last
Maybe
I
you
heard
do it.
from you guys
Uh-huh.
was they were doing the camel run to.
And then he kills Benny.
Well,
No, you guys already talked
what
about
I mean,
should've
he
killed
should have
Benny.
killed Benny.
Yes, and you were just like, wow, yeah, Benny should have died, and it's like he's just literally a crash
Well,
dummy of the entire movie.
When we think about it, it's real fucked up what they do to Benny.
Yeah, but he's
Granted,
also
he does have the
piece of
best.
shit, but-
Yeah, yes, but he does have the best scene where when the
Does anybody
mummy
need a beer?
when the mummy can you grab me one when the mummy is walking like at him and he's going through all the different religions that
Yeah,
he
the
has
different, like, languages
yeah
and
dude
everything.
it's so funny
Yeah.
I love that one and
Oh
he gets
my
like
God.
Hebrew and he's like the language of the slaves and then
Yeah.
he
This
becomes
my fault.
friends
This is my fault.
yeah it definitely was anyways where you had something about the
Yes.
but we
Cold
do
open.
start with a cold open
Yes.
Yes. So the cold opening of the show and the series so far was honestly such a great way to open it up because for both people that have played the games and not, it is a perfect way to sum up what we're looking at for this entire show. Because even in the game, I don't even remember them using the term cordyceps very often.
Well,
but that's that's exactly what it's all based around.
I think they leaned in the show versus the game. I think they leaned more into the fungus and the cortisone,
Cordyceps.
cordyceps. That
Gotcha.
fucking thing. I think they leaned into that a lot more than the game did.
So you haven't played the game, so you don't know.
Oh, no, that's why I said I think. Remember when I said
It's exactly all fungus and everything in the game. They
Is
just
it?
don't. I don't recall them using the term cordyceps, but that is exactly the same thing that's based off. Like Neil
Well,
Druckmann brought in the same exact ideas and visual aesthetics and everything.
Yeah. But I agree with Matt because I think that the show. Oh, well, because yes,
Cut that out.
while it's the same basic principle of how things progress. It's the show really brings to light kind of more than the game. does.
Yes.
So I think at least that's where Matt
even
was
as
going
a
with that.
game player though, I was like, oh, it's cool that they're actually explaining a little further into this.
Yes.
Which was just really entertaining and fun because like I've also I'm very much into like National Geographic and like wildlife shit,
Mhm.
and I knew about these fungi like that were existed in life.
Oh, yeah,
because I knew
like-
about the ant colonies and shit.
Oh my god.
And then when they actually explained it in the show, and I was like, oh shit, this is actually the real shit. that
Have you
they're
seen
relating it
like
to.
there's some photos and just like they talk about fungus that will be all well, they do take over like ants and stuff.
Yeah.
But also like even fungus that's growing in the jungle can be like hundreds of feet long, and it's just one giant connected organism.
Yeah.
And it's
Incredible.
frankly terrifying.
It's horrifying, but it's also just fascinating how it works.
But they did base like that initial. Neil Druckmann said it that he based that initial idea off of that type of cordyceps.
Yeah.
Because like if you've ever, I don't know if you guys have seen like the like BBC like little episodic thing on that cordyceps thing with the ants.
Yes,
but
I
like
have.
I think I have.
it
Yes, I
literally
have.
like controls the ant to go to a spot
Yep.
and then releases spores to infect other ants.
Shit's
and it's
messed
just
up.
like, yeah, it's crazy.
yeah,
terrifying.
it's horrifying. And what I loved about it is it also it put us back in what 40 years ago, 40 years before the virus broke out in
20.
the show. I thought it was the 60s.
I
Maybe it was
believe
the
it was
80s.
20.
Yeah, well,
20 years since whenever it was 2003.
Yeah, and so I'm talking in the cold open. I thought
2003
was,
was Outbreak Day.
yes.
Oh,
And
heard.
so for the cold open, it was
I just
somewhere,
assumed it
somewhere-
was the same, but I didn't put too much.
Well,
I
however
clearly-
long it was decades, multiple decades. So, which kind of aligns with what we all just went through a few years ago with the coronavirus pandemic. Is people were afraid of a virus. People kind of knew, scientists kind of had an idea of how dangerous something could be, and nobody really took it seriously. Which is just it is very chilling to kind of again see life imitate art or art imitate life.
Well, they even bring up a point in there, like there's literally lines that in that cold opening of saying like, well, these fungi like they only do this kind of thing in certain temperatures.
Yeah.
But what if the temperatures were to rise?
Right.
And
Yeah.
it's like, oh,
It is.
fuck,
Yep.
yes.
I don't know how much that is true, but they did a great job. I thought of like it's like sci-fi. It's not fantasy. It's like sci-fi. It's closer to reality, but
Yes.
it's like a small tweak.
Yes.
Which, as a dumb person, I couldn't tell you if it was true or not. Like, could this
But
actually happen?
It felt true, and that was the important
In
thing.
my
Is,
heart,
is
it
that
feels
was
true. But I also believe the mummy could happen too. So
well, obviously it could because it did. They
Not
made a
magic.
documentary about
There's
it.
happen.
plenty of magic in
it
there.
was just fungi get into the skeleton, moving around,
I'm talking
doing
about
stuff.
the mummy
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
magic.
Mummy magic.
Mummy magic based on shrooms.
So the first, it was so interesting. The flashback with Sarah and Joel's intro.
Yeah.
It was. As I watched it, and then it ended. Well, we won't jump to that. But I looked to see how long it was. Just kind of interesting.
Yeah.
It is like 30 minutes, and so there was another 50 minutes left. So essentially, what they did was there is a 50-minute episode and then there's another 50-minute episode, which is 2.
Yeah.
And then they tacked on a 30-minute intro.
Yep.
At the very beginning of everything.
Yep.
And then, they go through, they not power through, but they go through that, and then it's a title drop, like it's fucking 65 or something. And they do the title drop like halfway through
Yeah.
everything. But based off what I've heard is the video game, it's very similar to the video game
Yeah.
in terms of all the events. At least I know when the outbreak happens and they're in the truck, that I believe is like pretty much shot for shot. I don't know about
close.
before
Very
that
close.
though. When
Before
she's
that is-
walking around.
Even the
Before that.
lines.
Yeah, the lines are very similar. I think what they did is they in the show expanded a little bit more on the family dynamic, the neighbor dynamic, kind of giving Sarah a little bit more life to breathe and not just killing her off right
They
away.
expanded that universe just a little further than the
Yep,
game did.
Yep, and not too much to make it so that it dominated the episode. But yes, go ahead.
Yes,
Matt.
sir.
I have my hand raised. Is she as much of a main character in the video game? Because in the show, she's the first main character. We
Yes.
follow her around. Then once she dies, spoilers. When she dies, we switch over to Joel.
Yes.
And then a spoiler again. And in the future, we're gonna mimic that again. When Joel, quote unquote, hypothetically could die, then they switch over to Ellie.
That is exactly how the game does it.
Exactly.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yes.
That's what I was wondering.
You
if
play
it was.
as Sarah
Yep.
for the first
Oh, really?
And you
15
meet
minutes
Joel
or
that
so.
way.
Yep.
Oh,
Yep.
so there's actually gameplay before. In my mind, it was just a really long. Well,
Nope. It's
a movie in my mind.
It
so.
is. I mean, that's what's really really cool about The Last of Us is the cutscenes. You actually want to watch them because a lot of people hate cutscenes, but I feel like The Last of Us made it so that it wasn't just exposition and bland character. It was believable, had heart, made you really want to care and find out what was happening, and not just to set up the next bit of action. It was a lot more story based than that. But yeah, so you play as Sarah, then you play as Joel, and then when Joel, is dying or almost dying, then you play as Ellie. And so exactly like that, it's really cool to see that perspective shift and then be handled in such a way on the show, very delicately as well, to honor the
How do they? How different? Do you have something?
I was going to say something. But based off of that, the show does a really good job of expanding that universe, though, in the sense of like, so you mentioned the neighbors.
Yeah.
There's that. God, they did it so well to where she's like hanging out with the old lady, and then you just see they played that shot where just in the background she's like starting to turn and everything. And it's so creepy.
I thought they did a great job. Like, it started off as a normal shooting, normal camera angles. Yeah, it's like you're just watching not sitcom as much, but like some realism, something like that. And then they have those. They start sprinkling in the horror shots, and like music comes in a little bit once some people start getting infected. Once you hear that, and then it starts bleeding into this horror, and it's something different, and it changes.
And the game does a bit of a gradual thing as that as well, because if I remember correctly, it's been a little bit, but you start as Sarah, and it's night already, and she gives Joel his birthday present, which is that watch, and then they fall asleep watching the show, or she falls asleep watching the show. He takes her back to her room. You wake back up as Sarah, and you start playing as Sarah, and you're like, you start hearing things outside.
Yeah, you're just kind of
weird and silent,
around.
and then you're just like, you're kind of like, what's going on? And you go downstairs, the TV's all staticky or like has like emergency signals on, and then something else happens, like you hear a dog like freaking out, and
the dog from the show.
Yes, exactly. Like there's all these little things that like you just starts building up, and then finally it escalates to a point where Joel saves you from this crazy person.
Nice.
Yeah, but I think in the game it was all contained inside the house. I don't think she ever left.
Yes,
so
it was.
Yeah, again, I really like that.
Until they get into the truck.
Exactly. Okay, until he bursts in, it's like, we got to go right this fucking second.
How did they? How did you guys feel? And did they have a different tone of like because this whole thing is a 30-minute intro to Joel. Like, this is supposed to set up his character. We're supposed to get to know him. And do you feel like it had the same tone and it said the same things about Joel, or do you think they switched some of his characters from the game to the movie to the show? And just in general, do you think they did a good job setting him up?
I have my opinion. I don't know if you have a thought on that.
Yeah, I think
you don't have my opinion. You have your opinion. Heard yours.
I don't know. Well, I guess
I'll
we'll
look
have
for
to find out.
I'll look for mine real quick.
I think that to answer your last question, yes, they did a fantastic job of setting up Joel and the world and the character and moving forward his motives. From the game, I think it was a little bit less expository and a lot more just, oh my God, it was a father who lost his daughter. Obviously, you would be broken too. Where in the show, they really kind of hammered in that relationship. The fact that she really did care for him, and not just in a father-daughter relationship. She took care of him. And
that is very true.
with, losing her broke him, but broke him in more ways than just it kind of would seem on the surface.
It was like his wife, but not her mom, because she would be her own mom.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Geoff.
I agree with that point to the extent of, I feel like the game did it very well too, just like establishing Joel and his daughter's connection, and it was like really just as impactful as it was in the show. But they added little extra elements in the show that changed it a little bit for me from a game perspective to the show perspective. And that moment is particularly when Sarah is getting chased out by the old lady, and Joel whacks the shit out of that old lady with a wrench.
Yeah.
And Sarah is looking at him like, what the fuck did you just do?
Yeah.
Rather than just like, you just saved my ass.
Exactly.
Kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
that shifted that emotion a little bit for me versus what the game did.
Heard. Which I want to remember that when we get to it towards the end of episode 1. I want to talk about that.
I know,
because it's something.
I'm so excited to talk about that. I mean, we could right now jump in.
So, but I had some questions about Joel.
Yeah.
Because I feel like between the first time I watched it and the second time I watched it, the first time I watched it, I felt like, okay, when Sarah died, Joel got like hardened. He was a little bit meaner. He was like more survival and everything.
Yeah.
And that's why he's like that in the post-apocalyptic world. But I disagree with that the second time I watched it. I disagree with myself, yes.
Okay.
And
That's good.
Because before she died and they're running and they're in the truck, he was immediately saying, go run them over. We're leaving those people. I don't care.
Yeah.
We're going to kill this lady.
Yep.
We're going to kill those people.
That was the same in the game.
Run all of them. But it's like, so he was definitely survivalistic and like ruthless before Sarah died.
Yes.
It was Sarah dying was not what turned him into that. I think he's just that
it
person.
unleashed it.
Exactly.
A little bit more, but he was already like we're leaving those people. They have kid, and then Tommy was like, "Oh,
Yeah.
they have a kid." I was like, "I don't give a shit."
We do
or
too.
Like,
yeah.
Or even when they're in the city, he's like, "Run, like just go."
Well, he just went extreme
through
dad
that.
mode. He's just like all of a sudden, just like everyone in this car is the only thing that
So
matters.
I will
right
give
now.
you, it's definitely, it probably unleashed it. Definitely made him like sadder, which, you know,
Yeah.
when you get depression, you know, you're not
Yeah.
gonna,
And-
you don't care about that stuff. You're like,
No,
go
exactly, but-
balls to the wall.
But I noticed that the second watch too was that line really was, no, that's kind of Joel's personality. That's who he is. It's a leave others to fend for themselves. That's just baked into his personality. And you know, when you rip his heart out, then he's got nothing else left
Right.
to care about. But I mean, and there's a point where he doesn't even care about himself. So it's always that apathy's kind of always been there.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of one of the points that they convey is that just all of a sudden, because his daughter died and Tommy's not there with him anymore, he's got no one else to look out for except himself. And even to that extent, they explain later on that he tried killing himself.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I'll say, I feel like he keeps picking up people that he needs to protect somebody. Let's be honest. I
Yes.
feel like, because
Yes.
even like when he didn't have, it was Sarah. Well, Sarah died, so then it was Tommy. Tommy left, so then it was Tess. Tess died. Spoilers. Tess died, and then
does everybody
and then
die
it
in
was
the show?
and then it was Ellie. So it's like it really feels like a core part of his personality is protecting somebody.
Yes, and I
Yeah.
think that might be, and I don't know if it's more of I need to feel needed or feel useful, or if that is just who he is I am a protector whether or not I like it.
Well, I think that's kind of drives the point of he tried to kill himself because he didn't have that person
Yep.
Yeah.
until he met Tess. And
Yeah.
then all of a sudden he did find that little bit of drive just to keep going on.
Yeah, just something to hang on to. I
People
want
just
to
can't live
just
on
go
their
back
own.
for a sec because I want to know how the hell did they get that dog to sit and have his head cocked when Grandma turned?
Well,
Like
Dogs
that
are
was-
easier to train than
I was
most
about to say,
animals.
with because I've never
yes.
I don't know that
Oh,
I've
I
seen
can
yeah.
I can get my dog confused.
Okay.
Or
You're just like, see this
It-
food?
my brother,
Where'd it go?
dude, my
Oh,
brother's
man,
dog.
yeah.
I'll say something to him. He's
Uh-huh.
like, "What?"
It's just that was
I've learned how to
masterfully
talk to
done, and the way that they were able
It
to
was
frame
good, though.
that.
I
Yeah.
very
was,
much.
oh,
The dog I
fantastic.
thought was fantastic too.
Yeah.
In the whole.
And what
beginning
I
part.
really liked is this episode. It was really a horror show. Like it was really intense. It was really
the first 30.
the first episode, the whole thing. Like it was,
Well,
well, especially the first 30 is like you're seeing
you think it was-
the grandma start to twitch, and you get that hints of music.
I
and
totally
these
agree with
things.
that section is definitely very horror.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna say once we get past the title phase, I felt like significantly less hoary.
Hoary.
My bad.
God,
but
when aren't you
Who wants to
hoary?
who wants to spelunk with these horries?
before we get to that, I did see in one of the informations or whatever. There's a Easter egg for Last of Us 2 from the game in the beginning with Joel and Ellie. The movie that she gets him is called Curtis and Viper 2.
Yes.
Which apparently is a big thing in the second
It's a big
floor.
thing throughout the second
That's
game.
what I heard.
They have little conversations on being like,
To-
oh
it's
yeah,
like
do you want
a-
to watch that the next movie? And
It's
then
like
they
a
just keep
second
finding them.
favorite in the 80s or
Yeah.
something like that.
Same thing
Joel
with
segment.
Huh.
in the game they have they don't call it Mortal Kombat. There's a different game, but they talk about that character that she like Angel Knives or something. It's definitely in the show they call it Mortal Kombat and it's Melina. But they like
yeah. Well, which is what
all
it
the-
is.
yes,
but
yeah,
in
exactly.
the game they couldn't say
They
that.
couldn't
probably.
get, they couldn't
Yeah,
get the
yeah.
release for it, but
now they do.
Yeah, right. They got more money.
Yeah.
They don't let the So yeah, go
So,
ahead.
another point that I just wanted to bring up before we jump forward a little bit was that car ride when they're trying to escape. Just beautiful. That burning house is fantastic, right? We get so much character depth and building, but it's on another level of Sarah asks, well, how do we know we're not sick? How do we know? And it really kind of proposes that
Well,
misinformation of no, we're going to be fine, we're
Well,
okay,
yeah.
but how do you know that? And that kind of also I think plays in the back of Joel's mind through the next 20 years. Well, if my daughter died, then anybody can get sick. Then how do we know you're not sick? We can't trust anybody, which
Well-
then leads into the misinformation and
Right. I was going to say, it seems like to me, Joel's the type of character that figures it out pretty quickly. But in that first initial opening, I'm sure it's, like, nobody probably even knows if it's a virus or
Well,
something at that
because they
point.
were talking
Yeah.
about everybody that goes downtown. It started downtown, and that's why she was freaking out because she
Yeah.
was downtown with the getting the watch fixed. Which that man was a miracle worker. took him 2 seconds to fix that watch.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Like,
did he just have to replace the battery? Did she not think about
he like
that?
turned around, like smacked it, and was like, "Hey, it's done. Da, 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 da. Get the fuck out!" And they like threw it at her.
Time.
Basically, yeah. Time catches up to all of us.
Right.
That's
Okay.
a
So
thing.
yeah, I agree. The truck ride was amazing. I like the POV sticking
I
out
will
of the
say
truck.
the one interesting thing about that in particular, the show versus the game, I almost like the game version better because
He's gonna say this all the time.
I know
gonna annoy me.
it's going to be a consistent theme kind of.
It's gonna
But
annoy me.
I like that you get to control where you're looking, and like they
Oh,
they
yeah.
have the thing pop up over here, and so you see like you see
You
a
might
glow of
miss
fire.
stuff.
You
Yeah.
look over to the house, but then there might be something else sound wise coming over
Yeah.
somewhere else. Like it's just that more interactive aspect that
That
I
house did look
appreciate.
gorgeous,
yes,
especially on
Especially
at
without
night.
with or without
Yeah.
fire.
I imagine the house was gorgeous without the fire, but with the fire it was gorgeous, especially
Yes.
on my projector at night. Ooh-wee.
Yeah.
Ooh,
That was awesome.
Yes.
that might have to happen here in a minute.
Yeah. So so that the first 30 minutes of the whole episode is the first 30 minutes is literally just Joel's background, which I thought they did a great job of. It was so much information and set you up about Joel's life and who he is and all that stuff. And he's not even the main character in the 30 minutes.
Yeah.
He's like, he's a side character
Yep.
in this, but we learn so much about him.
Yep.
I'm sure Brandon's annoyed because it's another interracial couple. I'm
I'm not annoyed at all.
He's
I
like,
just
I like the
noticed
game
it.
better.
assuming that's why you don't watch Big Prize Door either, because there's an interracial couple
Is
in
there?
there too. Yes.
Nice. No, it's not that I've just noticed that
I know, right?
it's a relevant thing. It's a very relevant thing is having an interracial couple, but also having the wife be missing or non-existent or die right away. Like it's something that I've noticed is very, very frequent.
Okay, so then the title happens.
Do you think Sarah would have survived? Because
right, sweet.
I also want to bring that back to the three of us is who would survive in the apocalypse if we have time. But do you think that Sarah would have survived
If she
at
didn't get
all
shot by
if
humans?
she didn't get shot or if she had lived through the shot? Like, I feel like she's the kind of person who wouldn't have survived because she's so frightened, and maybe that would have made a more interesting story to see someone that frightened break and
I think she would have been frightened and she would have had to get over this, but I
Right.
think a combination of she was very smart
uh-huh.
and Joel obviously is very good at keeping people alive. Like that's what he does.
Yeah. Yeah.
Other than his daughter, obviously. But he
Yeah.
can't like stop
But I
bullets.
I
could-
mean, yeah, he tried.
The only thing I could say I could think that would happen that would be bad for Sarah is that she would become like what a lot of people have issues with. I don't know if you guys have played the Telltales versions of The Walking Dead or anything like that, but they do a
I've
good.
heard good things.
Yeah, they're really great, but they do a good job of like it comes down to how much a person trusts other people, kind of thing.
Okay.
and you can find yourself
Which
in
I
a
do think
big
she would
trouble with that.
I
stuff.
agree she would have
Yeah.
trouble with that. But Joel would definitely be like, no,
But
we're
there's
not
only
gonna
so
go.
much he can do because even later in the series, he gets surrounded by Tommy's horse crew, and then he's just like, "There's nothing I can do."
Right. And there's several times throughout this series where Joel just kind of freezes and is incapable of figuring out what to do or, and I love that because it makes him real. It makes him human. He's not this, infallible God. He is a scared individual who doesn't know how he's made it this long.
Despite how many times I die in the game, but yeah.
That'd be great if they start putting that in the season 2. He dies every single
I'll-
episode.
I'll be honest, like the game seems
Oh
even
my God, they
crazier
killed Joel.
just because of how many like you almost want to die by each person or thing because every death is
Oh, it's
different
like
and it's
Jurassic.
horrifying. Like literally the bloater, it'll start ripping open Joel's mouth to split open his
jeez.
head.
Oh, that's right.
It's
I
fucking
forgot
crazy.
about that.
That's
The
why
first time
that's
that
why the
happened,
bloater felt a
yes.
little downplayed to me in the show because it happened so fast. But
Yeah.
I'd seen myself die so many times by those fuckers.
You exactly. They were like, we've seen it enough. We know what this does. It's there. Move on.
Well, that's perfect because the first 30 minutes we get to the title and then we jump 20 years into the future to present day, or at least 2023 present day, and then one of the things I feel like I notice is this episode, which is the title "When You're Lost in the Dark." It's 120 minutes.
Nice transition, by the way.
Thank you. It's 120 minutes and 30 minutes is the intro. You get zombies towards the end, and then the rest of the episode. Do we see another zombie? Short of the ones that they killed and like the little kid and stuff, but like full on zombies. The rest of the episode.
Don't
Nope.
think
Another
so.
50
It's
minutes.
in the town at
Well,
that current time.
So that's why
Yeah.
that's why I disagree with the whole episode was kind of horror God, I gotta stop saying that. There's whores everywhere. But because I feel like we did not see zombies, it wasn't necessarily scary to me. This episode, it was another whole intro. It was like it could have been the first episode by itself because you got an intro into the world and however the society's doing and everything.
Yeah.
Then I felt like episode 2 was more of the intro into the zombies more. They started explaining more of those and stuff. Yep. But in this one, so after the title, we jump to the kid walking into town.
Yep.
We get a big thing.
Very tragic.
One of my
traditional storytelling.
One of my small things is I feel like they should have killed that kid outside and tested him outside. Never bring him inside the walls if they don't know if he's a zombie.
Exactly. I don't get that either.
That feels weird.
I mean, I don't know if that comes down to the world building of how the infection kind of thing does.
Real small.
You have to look for the shakes and stuff like that.
Well, they tested him. They have a tester.
Yeah.
Because they just scanned his neck or whatever it was.
They never really explain.
They
allude to it later when Ellie freaks people out. But if a person is infected and they haven't turned officially yet, can they spread it? I don't know.
Oh, that's a good point.
Oh.
They don't really like Ellie freaks somebody out about it later in the series, but they never really explain if that's actually possible.
I want to say yes, but probably I don't know. I guess a good question.
I would assume because
I
mean this is like jumping way to the end, but like because her mom gets bit or whatever when she's giving birth. So I believe because instantly you get some of the blood, I think, and it transfers into the blood system, which is, I assume, why she's immune because she's a little bit of it. It's like the perfect, vaccines and all that stuff. You get a little bit of it, your body fights it. So I imagine instantly you do have a little bit in there,
right?
But I don't know how much it would take to turn somebody else. Another thing that I didn't notice until the second viewing is that when the kid goes in and he's getting tested and stuff, there's a chart on the wall, and I didn't notice it before. And is it something that's more prevalent in the game? So the chart says it's where you get bit is how long you before you turn.
I think I remember reading notes or something like that, like a little thing.
Oh, was it one of those little,
I think so. You find that in the
notes,
game. Because it does increase or decrease the time length that it takes to get infected.
If you get bit in the head, it's 5 to 15 minutes.
I saw or head or neck area, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, head or neck area. Torso is 2 to 8 hours.
Yep.
And legs is 12 to 24 hours.
Gotcha.
Which, I didn't notice that in the first viewing
until
the second viewing.
Yeah, I noticed it the first viewing, but then I really paid attention to it that second viewing. And it's just one of those like generic would be at a doctor's office kind of pamphlets, and yet I don't know. I get this like it's not a dangerous warning sign, and yet it's literally saying if you get bit, this is how long you have to live.
Yep.
Yeah,
Unless
keep an eye out for if and when they come out with season 2, based on part 2.
Did you just say if?
I did say if.
In what world? Unless
unless cordyceps come into this world and ruin us, part 2 will be coming out. Let me correct that.
Yeah, you're right.
But when that does come out in the second game, part 2, they have another pamphlet thing similar to that where they lay out the type of infected, where it's like the newly infected, which are like kind of like people. Then clickers is the next stage, and then bloaters are the next stage. I bet they throw that into the part 2.
Okay.
They seem pretty damn good at those small Easter eggs and whatnot.
Yeah.
For I think what Marlene is Marlene, right? I think maybe I'm crazy. I thought Marlene, the voice actor of Marlene in the game.
Oh,
no. I thought
different voice actor, but the voice actor in one of those amazing HBO Max behind the scenes things. She auditioned for the voice of Marlene
that was
in the game.
And I just misunderstood that?
Yes.
That's cool.
They're jackasses. That's not cool. I bet a bunch of people...
It's cool. Matt was wrong.
It is cool that Matt was wrong. Doesn't happen very often.
Can we have Geoff
it happens
on
more often than
Soak it up. Shut up, Brandon. You're fine, Geoff. You're cool.
You see?
So what you guys think about the intro into the world? Like we had the Joel's backstory. Now we're getting set up into the world.
It felt very traditional, not too tropey, not too cliche, but it was very traditional. Okay, so we have a lot of decay. We have the quarantine zone, right? We have this military state, a lot of rules, a lot of people who are just kind of scraping by. So that wasn't really anything new or interesting, but it was more of. Joel is just going to do whatever it takes to keep surviving and make the most money and just be able to do whatever he wants, which again kind of was a nice way to see him transition, but still stay the same, because that kind of was what he was doing before everything hit the fan.
It definitely did feel like it was the same character we just learned about.
Yeah. And well, even from a world building standpoint.
I was not supposed to be like sarcastic. I thought they did a good job of like, we got the backstory, then it started. I didn't mean to. I didn't mean to. It sounded mean. What I really meant was they did a good job of
Thank you for seeing my internal tears.
Well, that's why I said that. I could tell your laugh was...
It was a cry instead of a laugh.
I thought they did a great job, and then it jumps to the future or present, and then he's still the person who we thought. Like, it does. Yeah. Nothing felt like it changed drastically, at least.
He just felt like more shelled into like himself, like more reserved.
Yes.
Which is obvious. Like that. Yeah, that's bound to happen.
Exactly. How do you continue?
Yeah.
I don't honestly know how anyone continues after something. Not just having their kid die, but having their kid die in their arms in that way when everything else is falling apart. Like, I just couldn't imagine. Go ahead.
Whoa, that was weird.
Uh-oh.
What were you going to say?
We do that all the fucking time, but that's the first time.
First of many, hopefully. But
the audience doesn't know because I usually cut it out.
Well, what were you going to say?
And Matt, you're right. Just to go back real quick.
Yeah, did you hear that, Jeff?
What?
I was right. I'm not sure what he's going to talk about.
I didn't hear anything.
Okay.
I'll cut that out. I'll hit the stop recording.
It costs money.
Thank you. It costs money. Yeah, we can't pay people here to do things. No, but Matt, you're right how it felt like an introduction as one episode and then another introduction in almost its own episode. And that's because episode 1 was supposed to end with Joel throwing the kid into the fire, and that was going to be it. It was supposed to mimic Joel holding his daughter,
like that.
Carrying his daughter, holding a child in his arms, dying, to now I have no problem holding a dead kid in my arms.
I did not notice that until you just said that, but that is a very good, that was a good
I was going to say, did they talk about thinking about ending the show on that? But they were like, we can't leave it on such a downer note.
It's exactly what it was.
Yeah.
It's too depressing. We're not going to, people aren't going to want to come back.
Makes sense.
So let's, how can we,
also,
how
it
can we
wouldn't have
go more?
explained too much for me.
Yeah.
I feel like it would have felt like because you got to get to the world that you're going to be living in.
Yes, exactly.
Even if it's a moment, you got to get more into it than just a moment.
The one character you actually associated and cared about just died. Like you're
exactly.
learning about Joel, but you don't care about him yet.
Nope. Yeah, and your other main character for the rest of the series hasn't been introduced. So to end it without even introducing Ellie or having them meet would have also felt very disconnected. So
speaking of the introducing Ellie, I thought her first scene was pretty good. Like, you learned a little bit. You learned about the testing, which wasn't necessarily learned about her, but I thought it was perfect. I didn't notice the first time through, she says her name is Veronica, not Ellie. Yeah. She's smart enough to, use a false name. Yeah. She's got an attitude. You get that the sense from her.
Yep. And shout out to Bella Ramsey. She it's said that they didn't.
She's better in Game of Thrones.
They were told.
I'm checking.
They were told not to play the games or anything like that.
Game of Thrones? But yeah,
I don't think I can clear that song, so it'll be interesting.
But again, anyway, shout out to Bella Ramsey, because even without playing the games or any sort of like reference to what they were reenacting, basically, she hits inflections and the attitude and everything so perfectly.
Absolutely.
It's really
was she trying to hit those inflections, or do you think she was just happens to be the same?
I think they just wrote it in really well, because Neil Druckmann created these characters. They can write the personalities that they want in the script. Yeah. But man, she nailed it.
And when you have the creator on set to be like, this is her personality.
Yep.
You wanted this, blah, blah, blah,
Right.
Well, and I think just it shows what you can do when you hand material off to really good actors like Pedro and Bella. They're so good at the minute details, at the subtleties and the tiny bits of expression that you don't always catch, even first, second, third time viewing. Like, there's little things that they do and ways that they react to things.
That's called all of them.
That
like there are lines,
every single one.
There are lines they used word for word from the video game in several episodes, and some they nailed them so well. Like a lot of them, and then sometimes they changed them slightly, but sometimes that worked really well
in its favor. To make it a more in-depth character or give it more of grounding it in not just a fantasy sci-fi world of this is a person, this world is real. So, suspension of disbelief is held very well. How do people react to this insanity that's happening?
Yeah.
So what else about Ellie's introduction. I feel like you were going to say something else.
I wasn't going to, but I can.
Okay.
So we get a little bit more of like, we get some of her backstory, which is interesting because they don't introduce a bunch about her. Like, you know, Joel has a whole half hour. Even Ellie, I feel like, has the same level of introduction as like Tess does. And so I feel like you get to know her, but you don't get her whole backstory, which is nice. But you still buy into, you get a little bit, she's adopted, well, like, you know, abandoned or whatever. She doesn't know her mom, all this stuff. Marlene has some weird connection with her. You know, you get all those small things before really kicking off. And frankly, you know, we don't really learn we learn a lot more about her halfway down the line.
Yeah. It's interesting that you have, like, that's all perfectly, like, aligned for what you not playing the game. I want to ask you, Brandon, did you play the DLC of Ellie's backstory in the mall?
No,
because that is a DLC that they created that part of the episode that
I was curious
didn't
about
play.
that. Yeah, I was curious where that came from. I did not know that
it was an
DLC.
extended DLC. That's why I played the game multiple times, because I got the one that had every DLC or whatever.
Nice.
And I mean, that they did that episode so well too. Like they hit the carousel, they play with the Halloween store, and like they hit all the main points really
well. And I noticed in the second viewing is there the small setups for that backstory. They ask her about, you know, where'd you find out? Oh, I was in the mall. You weren't supposed to be in the mall. You went by yourself.
Yeah.
And the way that in the game
stuff,
too, and
it was
everything.
like I thought that was really good. Small things. Same with Marlene.
Lots of
when she was like,
foreshadowing.
I don't remember if she said I was there when you were born, or like I knew your mom. And
she says
like,
she knows her mom. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like you get the small setup for the future backstory and everything.
And
that
even that backstory is not in the game, but it was interesting that they brought that in. But we'll talk about that later.
I know. I can't wait to get to all this stuff, but and it just shows the quality when you really are passionate about something. Craig Mazin was a huge fan of the game. And they talk about that Neil Druckmann was a huge fan of Chernobyl. So it's just really cool when you have people who are so passionate about something that the quality just increases.
Yeah, and then just stop bringing up Chernobyl.
No, I will not.
How awesome to be just like, oh, I loved your work. Oh, I loved your work. Oh, studio, can you give us millions of dollars to make something really fucking cool? How fucking awesome would that be?
I can't imagine.
Well, that's what I heard is HBO went
that's
to...
like on level of Creed 3 when he's like, I didn't know what camera I wanted to use. And then the DP's like,
I haven't shot on IMAX before.
What's wrong? Nothing. I'm just really happy.
I'm going to shoot on this camera this day, this camera on this week. Oh, it's going to be so great. Everyone just bring every camera you have, or we'll use it at some point.
Yes, I'd like to rent a camera. Which one? Yes.
All of them.
Yeah.
The studio, please.
Which lenses? Yes.
Get in.
Yes.
Get in the truck.
Oh man.
And then we get set up. So we get the Joel the bodies thrown in.
Yep.
Ellie tied up, and then we jump to. I think then after that we jump to Tessa's, Tessa's like intro, which is a very interesting way. Is normally it bucks to the tradition where it's like she's the kidnapped, she's kidnapped or whatever, but he's negotiating with her to be like, let them go.
That's
and all
exactly
that
like
stuff.
I was a little bit, even the second time, confused about their relationship. And so, you know, where
I think the point is like to show how like beastly Joel is and how scary Joel is, and to really establish him in this world as he's a badass.
Yeah.
Like, so he's afraid of him just to be like, oh, the dude who has her kidnapped is afraid that he might hear about it and then he's gonna die.
Okay,
that's right off the bat.
Video game perspective, they do establish that he, what's his fucking name?
Robert.
Robert. Robert is afraid of Joel.
Nick.
Robert.
Oh, is it Robert?
It is Robert.
Okay, my bad.
He was getting to that was his next one.
Yeah,
I don't think so.
But in the game, they do establish that.
Jorge next.
In the game, they do establish that Robert is afraid of Joel.
I do remember that.
Yes, but then this entire like scene where they're actually sitting and like Tess is beat up by his goons or whatever. That is a portion that they skip in the game, because in the game you're already Joel. Tess ends up, you run into Tess when she comes to you after that.
Yeah.
So that was another interesting thing that they added in to the show versus what you actually see in the game.
That is interesting, because since we jumped into present day, you get a little bit of Joel, but you're still bouncing around all over. So it's kind of hard to judge like who exactly is going to be our main character still.
Right.
And so we still, like, because it's like you get a little bit of Joel, then you get a little bit of Ellie, you get a little Marlene, you get a little Tess / Robert, and then the whole thing blows up.
Yeah, and
she's
it just
running.
and it kind of throws.
And that
you
is
in.
one of the biggest changes they did for the show, because in the game you do stick with your character almost entirely.
But and I like it because it allows, again, the characters to breathe a little bit, the world to be a lot more embellished. Yeah, you can't control their actions, but you get to see more of what makes the world run. It really, we talk about it so much about world building. I think that by doing that, by going to different characters and to really see them interact, and not just interacting in the same situations, but interacting in different situations within this apocalypse is. It gives you a sense of what can happen around them and why they make their choices.
Yeah. Well, it's also just fun for the people that played the games because it's additional content and backstory that you didn't have. So
right.
I just had so much fun with that's what happened beforehand kind of thing. They're filling in the little gaps kind of, which is fun.
The small intros are good. We roll into the whole setting up the really, I think then it rolls into setting up the series is like what is going to be, because you learn a little bit Joel and Tess's situation. You learn he wants to go find Tommy. You get a small introduction of that them.
The Tommy thing is actually different from the game.
Oh, really? Was he in there at the
He's
beginning?
not in contact with Tommy in the game at all at that point. He just knows he's off somewhere doing his own thing.
So he just decides that he wants to go look for him?
No, so in the game, it turns out to be later, after they go through some more stuff, he's like, after Tess dies, basically, he's like, well, my brother used to be in the Fireflies, and last I knew, I think he's over this direction. And then that's when they start going to find Tommy.
Yeah.
Really?
In the show,
was Ellie with him already?
Yes.
Interesting.
And then in the show, he's already still kind of in contact with Tommy.
Well, because again, it harkens back to our earlier point of Joel really, feels like he is protecting somebody else. He says a couple times, if I don't go find Tommy, he will die out there. So he still feels anchored to somebody.
That's interesting, because the show is they are going to leave, and then Ellie joins it for no reason other than to get to Tommy better. Like Joel sees his best opportunity is to get to Tommy, is bring this kid. And it's like, whatever, Tommy's priority number one.
Well, the overall goal still is their deal with Marlene to get, because in the game too, Tess and Joel's main goal is to get their guns, their truck, and get the fuck out of Dodge.
I guess they're just trying to get out of there.
That's the main goal. But then once Tess dies, she gives them that little guilt trip and obligation to be like, save as many people as you can. We don't know if this is real, but it sure looks fucking real.
Whoa. That's episode 2, man. Don't.
Shit. But anyways,
Jackass.
yes. Overall goals, Tommy wasn't a priority in the game until after Tess dies.
That's cool. So episode 2. No, I'm sorry.
No, you're good. But that's what I like, is because everything's so connected. You can go a couple episodes ahead because it's all relevant. One thing I want to bring up in the next episode that I notice is done really well is plant and payoff. And I feel like episode 1 is mostly just planting. They do a little bit of payoff from early stuff, but a lot of what episode 1 does is that setting up of everything and how are we going to pay it off in interesting ways moving forward.
Well, I will say before, because we'll power through to the end that we all want to talk about. Obviously, it's not final, but the whole episode 1 hour and 20 minutes felt like 2 setup episodes. So to me, it was a little slow at the beginning of the after the title jump, because it's like you have this slow setup, and then I think I was amped. I was like, sweet. The zombies, there's people are dead. I'm so excited. Then we jump to present day, and it's like, all right, we're gonna slow down. We're gonna there's a little bombing. Like we get the vibe between the government and normal people and Fireflies. Everyone hates each other. All that stuff. The city's kind of locked down, but it's not super locked down. You can sneak in and out. So then they gear up. They're ready to go to Tommy, and they pick up Ellie. And then as they're sneaking out, they go through the tunnels. Also, I like that Ellie never shows. I feel like she doesn't show fear at any point, even to like when she's tied up. She doesn't show fear. She's attacks kind of when they are the confrontation in the hallway. She attacks Joel, some stranger with a fucking gun. Yeah. She takes it on with a knife. She tries to. It's poor because you see the early stages of her where she doesn't know how to do all this stuff. She's very sheltered. Right. She even talks about it. She's like, oh, you've been outside of the wall? Oh my God.
So
what
cool.
about this?
That's
what
awesome.
about this? Because she's so sheltered. She can't attack. And then she gets handed off to Joel and Tess. And instead of her being like afraid, kind of, she's cracking his code. She's going through his shit, and she's like standing up to him. All this stuff.
She's a fighter.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Is it perfect? Even like they get to the tunnels and they're like, okay, we're gonna go through here. She pops out of that tunnel perfectly fine.
Interesting that you don't think that she's afraid, because I actually put that she is insanely afraid, and
You think so?
Yeah, and it kind of goes again to Bella's ability to really hone in on the subtleties of being afraid of. I caught it like in the hallway where when she looks up at Joel.
Yes, I did. I did get my hand stuck.
Okay,
in
I
the chair.
didn't know if that's what that was. I'm glad you're okay.
That's the trap worked.
It was. I don't know why I put my hand in there.
Good to know.
I'll leave little M&Ms in there too, and then
As long as it's peanut butter M&Ms, not peanut M&Ms.
whatever works to get your hand stuck in there again.
That's so funny. That hasn't even come out yet. Anyways, go ahead. I have no idea where you were at.
Fear.
God, I kind of cut myself. I kind of cut myself.
That was really good.
Dude, it was work. That's why one of the times I looked over, I was like, where
thought you were
I was
just
like, where do I
fucking
put my beer down to get my hand?
It's like
out?
that classic thing. You're just like, just let go of it. and you'll
Dude,
be fine.
absolutely. I was like, okay, so if I put my beer here, I can do like,
Right? Like, how can I balance it so it doesn't spill? Damn, you really did. Fucked yourself up. No, so I thought
And
that
cut back
yes,
in.
and cut back in. So I thought that Bella really showed how Ellie is frightened underneath all of that. She masquerades as someone who's really tough, but when she looks up and notices Joel's pointing a fucking gun at her, she just shrinks. Like she gets as small as she possibly can. She's horrified. And then when we get back to the apartment, yeah, she cracks the code, but the way she asks questions, you've been outside. How far have you been outside? How many have you killed? Like, she's asking questions to indicate that she is terrified of leaving.
I took that more as curious.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Like,
Interesting.
I can't wait.
Or I almost
kind
took it
of.
as like even her joking sometimes I feel like is almost like a defense mechanism thing.
Yes.
And I don't think there's anybody in that world that isn't a little afraid. Like everybody's
Yeah.
a little afraid.
Yeah.
Just because Joel's afraid of losing somebody. Like, but that doesn't mean he's, has a bunch of fear. Just because you're afraid deep down, I feel like when you're really afraid, like you let that take over. And it's like, even if it was, she went going out the tunnel and she pops out of the tunnel. She stands straight up and she's like, oh, this is so cool.
Yeah.
Instead of like, this is pitch black, you're outside, you could die. Instead of like hiding behind a rock,
Yeah.
she stands up because she's like, holy
She's free.
shit, this is so badass. That's what I felt like.
I gotcha.
Which then also shows she's still new. She doesn't know how to do all this stuff.
Noob.
It's like,
Well,
exactly,
it's also
right?
it's interesting to think about because she grew up in the world after it already crumbled.
But
So
she
it's
grew-
almost
yeah.
like conditioned to the fact it's like, oh yeah, I know there's like guns
Exactly,
and like
right? That's just
infected and
the
shit
world
like
she
that.
lives
It's
in.
like,
I
but
see.
this
Her
is
wheel-
fucking cool. I can
Her
see all
world
this.
is fear.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, yeah.
Yes.
it's like at no point, frankly, any of the people that were born after the outbreak, nobody is any point truly safe.
Yeah.
Like anything could
Right.
happen at any point,
at any
whether it's
point.
the government, whether it's other fireflies or other people or the zombies, infected, whatever. Shut up. So
I wasn't even gonna say
I
it.
wasn't even going to say anything either.
that was the people listening that are all like
Oh.
going. It's not real zombies. They're infected.
You're gonna start getting emails. Matt keeps telling me to shut up. Tell him to stop that, please.
No. Like we talked about before, nobody talks to us, so I can do whatever I want.
I'll send an email.
That's fine. Jeff will be the first email. I can't wait for Jeff to email
First time
Brandon
email, long
about
time listener.
complaining about Jeff. I don't know who you have this Jeff guy on. He's awful. You guys should not have him
Should
anymore.
never have him back on.
But you should pay for him.
But you should start paying your guests. Like, I heard you don't pay your guests.
I'm gonna call the Better Business Bureau.
ZipRecruiter rating of
Glassdoor. My review is gonna be horrible. So they're outside. Go ahead. Do you have
Oh, I was
something?
gonna say, based on the fear thing, I didn't get the sense that she was terrified like that. I think I was a little more along the lines of what you felt. I think to the extent of, I think she, as a person, feels fear, but she doesn't show it. Like, she does a really good job of not showing it. She always feels like she needs to be like the tough person in the room and
Yeah.
always like fucking fighting.
Yeah.
Being brave is not being afraid. It's not letting fear take over.
Yes.
Which, yeah,
It's
okay,
like you might be
okay.
afraid. So maybe she's
But I'm
not
not-
afraid, but she's incredibly brave.
Yeah.
Yes, and I completely agree with that. Absolutely. She's incredibly intuitive, very smart, very cunning. She's a kid, so she still has a lot to learn. But
She's also
learning.
an angsty teenager.
She's
so
an
like,
angsty teenager, obviously.
Which a little bit. If I was there, I'd be like, shut up. Oh my God. Okay, so we're outside, we pop out, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And then we get to the climax of the episode, the final really scene of the episode before the end of the episode, in which they get caught by the Fedra officer, which is the one that he even was making deal with beforehand.
Which I thought the officer was genuinely like warning him, like, dude, don't go outside.
I agree. I think
like,
it
I
was.
genuinely think it was like, I don't want to see you get hurt, not just because you're my drug dealer, but I think it's, it felt very genuine. And I just wanted to comment on that it was, well, maybe, but
like, dude, don't get hurt. You're the only person I know that has these drugs.
You're really fucking up my
Fuck you, but
And
also sorry.
Well,
but
he was
not
also
fuck
trying
you.
to escape, so he's trying to
Right.
stop him from escaping.
Yes,
also,
yeah.
But I agree with I think he was generally like worried about him beforehand. But that was before, like, that was, in a back alley.
Yep.
Nobody knew anything. He can walk away.
Yep.
Then it gets to a point where it's like, now I'm going to lose my job.
Yeah.
And a city, this world sucks enough. And I want to be on the side with power.
Yep.
And if you screw this up, I'm not going to let you screw this up and take the power away from me.
Yep.
right.
So then that's when
Yeah, not worth the trouble.
Correct,
Like, fuck
right.
you. You're going down now.
Yeah, and then I thought they used flashback in a perfect way, because a lot of flashbacks are very expository, very, oh God, do we really need to go all the way back and see this
Yeah.
again?
But those like sparks of memories and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
because then it really puts you back in the, all right, this is, he has a chance to make amends. He has a chance to not make the same mistake.
Right.
Of course, now
Well,
he's
it's
going to.
purely a representation of like PTSD.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
Oh fuck.
I love
Absolutely.
I love to go along with he's a protector. Joel, before anything, the first thing he does when the Fedra turns around, whether the gun comes out or he turns around and sees them, Joel steps in front of Ellie, and that's the first thing he does. He is a protector immediately, and even before they're really bonding with Ellie and all that stuff, he goes to step across and he's like, I'm protecting my
But at
child.
the same time,
basically.
at that moment, being this early in, I feel like it was almost just instinctual. I don't
Yes,
think he was.
I agree.
I don't think he was making the conscious decision. I'm protecting this girl. I think
Well,
he
yeah,
had that
he's-
PTSD moment, and he's like,
He's a protector.
I don't feel comfortable with this, but this, like, you're not shooting anybody here right now.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I agree. I also found it really interesting that the mantra of the Fireflies is look for the light, and yet when we're trying to escape, every
light is
time
evil.
and scary, and even Ellie knows that too. Of when the spotlight is, the searchlights are going over, they
pulled her down.
paused. Yeah, well,
Well, she didn't jump down. They pulled her down.
Oh, I know. I'm talking in the tunnel
sorry.
before they popped up, or before they met with the officer.
Okay.
Is when it was shining through the tunnel, the pipe or whatever.
Yeah, like the holes and the lights kind of like let
yeah,
through.
like she even paused, and so did Joel and Tess. But like light, it's just this crazy.
It's this back and forth of how like
Well,
you want to look at light.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. This
and I
this
think she was
different way.
copying that, like, monkey see, monkey do.
Okay. Well, either way, it was.
I don't remember it that well, but it makes sense, right?
Either way, sure. It was really well done.
So, what do you think? Based off of was that scene in the video game, the climax scene where the Fedra catches them,
Yeah.
test them? That was in the video
Well,
game.
so yeah, when Fedra catches them, they didn't. I don't recall them doing like a flashback moment of like relating it to his daughter, but there is a moment where they come out and they got caught by a guard, and then he starts testing them, and then right before they test Ellie, he takes the guard out.
I was thinking, well, when I was watching the scene and they test her, and then they basically reveal the secret, the big secret about her and everything.
Yep.
And I was wondering before I sat there and thought about it, I was like, I don't like that they revealed this big secret so quickly. I was like, I would have liked it to go longer, but the more I thought about it, with so many people played the video game and everything, that was never going to be a secret.
We all
So
knew.
I think it was a very good idea to get that out there, but not on the same page, but the video game people and the show people get them closer together.
Yeah.
Because I can't imagine how big the first episode was, and then a week, everybody's going to know it by the end. Ellie's immune.
But
hell yeah.
they played it off the same way in the game too, though. You didn't know Ellie was actually like, you don't know the importance of Ellie until that moment.
Yeah.
Because you're like, wait, she is infected, and then you're on the same page as Joel and Tess. You're like, wait, what? What the fuck? And then you find out what's actually going on.
Yeah. And then that moment that I think we were all going to talk about. Yeah,
okay. So the one of the things that I saw in the inside the episode, and I did not notice it during any of my viewing until they said it, and instantly it was I thought fucking amazing. So they pointed out that Joel kills the officer just like Joel kills the old lady at the beginning, and Ellie and Sarah are both behind him, and the two different reactions is Sarah cries, she's so scared, it's
she
like, what
recoils.
are you doing?
Yeah.
Ellie though, she's all about it because she has that, like, they talk about later, and I feel like it's not in the game as much from what I hear, is that kind of the darkness. She has a little bit of darkness, which is the same as Joel. She's kind of closer to Joel, I felt like in the than Sarah was.
Yes.
And you see that bond, like,
well, literally
start.
Even Sarah's line from the first episode when he kills that old lady is like, "You just killed her," and she's like tears everywhere and just like
can't believe it.
almost like
Can't
so
believe it.
disappointed that
Ellie
just
is like,
happened.
Yes.
I don't know if Ellie's smiling.
Well,
but
it's almost like in the Mona Lisa, you almost feel like you see it.
Yeah.
But I don't.
Well, she's leaning in. She's
Yeah,
like
she's
getting around to watch him actually do this.
Yeah.
She doesn't, she's interested.
She's not disgusted or anything. She's
No.
like, oh shit, this person
Which-
just like protected us.
Yeah, which makes her extremely dangerous.
Yes.
So you put two dangerous people together. Ooh,
Yeah.
it's a volatile
And it's interesting that
combination.
you guys brought up the point of like they're showcasing Ellie's darkness in this first season, because it definitely is more showcased than the first game, but it also alludes to the part 2 game.
Okay.
The second game,
Okay.
she gets way darker,
I'm looking forward to it. I really want to play it
and it's good.
before the second season comes out. So I know I have some time, but
Yeah.
I want to ask you guys, because you both know what inciting incident is, I imagine.
Yep.
So for those who don't know, the inciting incident is what really kicks off the story. What changes the world.
Oh,
So
thank you.
Neil, the creator of the game, would ask when he was making the game, he would ask people, what is the inciting incident? And people would say when Sarah dies.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. It's
No,
it's when.
That's what I just said.
Yeah, exactly. It's when. But do you know what do you think the inciting incident is?
My guess, based on it not being Sarah, is finding out that Ellie is infected.
It's very close. It's when Joel meets Ellie. That gives him a chance to make amends, for redemption. That changes Joel's life.
Yeah, it's interesting because your description of inciting incident, the way
disagree with
I
that.
always interpreted inciting incident.
I don't care if he said it. I disagree with it.
The way I interpreted inciting incident has always been based on the protagonist, depending on who that is.
Sure.
But like, it's when that protagonist finds their purpose in the story, essentially.
But so think about that, because that Joel's really just kind of going along, doing his thing.
Right.
Yeah, he has a goal to get to his brother, but then what? Like, there's
but
nothing really. He doesn't
don't
really
think
have a purpose.
Yeah, but him picking up, so I don't think he still has a purpose with Ellie.
No.
Just because they got together at that point, there's a million different events that could lead up to them even meeting.
Okay.
But he doesn't have a purpose frankly, I don't think he has a purpose until Ellie dies.
Well,
until Tess dies.
So based on the two descriptions, I can see where it comes from, just on the combined facts of he has to take this girl in order for him and Tess to get their goal of getting that truck, guns, battery, whatever.
I agree that,
and
but
that starts off their journey.
But even before we go that, he wants to get the truck battery. He has to go get the truck battery for the adventure to
But
start,
his
which
mind
then leads to Ellie, which then we could go even farther back.
But his mind isn't going to change about the world. His mind at that point.
I don't think his mind changed when he picked up Ellie. It was just a use to get a car battery.
That's exactly it. That was the inciting incident. Is when he meets her. That's the beginning of the story.
This is where literary arguments come into play.
Yeah, and
I just think that's arbitrary to pick there when it doesn't actually like kick off anything, because it's like he wanted to ditch her immediately. Also,
I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying.
It's not like he met her and went, "Oh, I'm going to protect this girl for the rest of my life."
And that's based off of the protagonist's mindset. Whereas you can also look at it as like the entire like. We're getting into the artistic aesthetic of
which
like the subjective side of it. There can literally be a number of inciting incidents that people can see as the inciting incident.
Yes.
But,
anyway.
Yes.
Anyways, anything else about that scene that we want to talk about once they got tested?
From a technical standpoint, I love the fucking red and green glow they got from that infection thing.
Yeah.
They didn't even have to show a screen. You
Yep.
just see the glow on them, and you're just like, oh fuck, that's
It's pretty
red.
amazing.
Like,
well, and you could hear
cool.
how I thought how Tess was just horrified. Like,
Yeah.
Yes,
Joel?
Yeah.
Yeah, the inflection of way she said it was amazing.
Was very I don't know. Yeah.
Okay, so
Shit.
then
We're
that
not even
is-
on episode 2 yet.
Agreed, Jeff. So we
Welcome to the podcast, Jeff.
End of episode 1. End of episode 1. Then we roll into episode 2, which is called Infected, which I think is a good name because it's definitely the intro more to the zombies. This is again we get back to. We see some of the infected. We learn a whole lot more about them.
Yeah.
I do have my connection for episode 2 to the Mummy. If you guys want to hear it now or whenever you guys want to hear it, you let me know. It's only 5 degrees to get back to the Mummy.
Do you have an easy way in, or is it like starting this episode?
The creator Neil Druckmann,
Yep.
whatever it is, name is.
I believe it's Druckmann.
That guy. So he worked on a video game in 2004 called Jack 3. Which had Tara Strong in it. She was one of the voices.
Is that like Jack 3 as in Jack and Daxter?
I
Jack
think
3?
so. That's
I
what it
might have
looks
played
like.
that.
You might have. Tara Strong was in it. Tara Strong is also the voice of Miss Minutes in Loki with Owen Wilson.
Yeah.
Owen Wilson is in Drillbit Taylor with Lisa Mann. She's Lisa in there.
Okay.
Lisa Mann is Ursula Stanhope from, George of the Jungle with Brendan Fraser.
man.
And of
Yeah.
course, Brendan
Back to the
Fraser.
Mummy.
Correct. Okay, so that's my
Only
connection
5
back to-
degrees. 6
Right?
degrees of separation is
I
a
know,
thing.
right? Exactly.
I didn't know that it
Impressive,
crossed
impressive.
boundaries
Thank
into
you.
video games and
Yep.
through it's insane.
I am pretty amazing.
Oh, I don't think we said
That's
that.
not what I said.
Anyways, for episode 2, the thing I want to bring up though
Go ahead.
is again the cold open. I fucking as a video game player and watcher of the show, fucking loved the cold open. It was so fucking good.
It's another flashback of the flashback because in the flashback they're talking about the
It's
the
weird
city.
because I'm watching Lost right now. And it's just like,
Not right now. The projector's off.
yeah,
We're really cutting into your lost time. But in
Lost
the
time.
Hey,
but so in the opening for the first episode, they're talking about whatever. I forgot what city it was, but it's in Indonesia, and they're referencing it. But then they cut to Indonesia, which is what they talked about.
oh right, yeah. Where
Just
is
all
Jakarta?
all
Yeah.
those small ass connections.
Yeah,
Like, are
plans and payoffs.
fantastic.
Plans and payoffs.
Yeah.
It's
And did you know that's where the Mummy actually? No, I don't know.
oh boy, no,
I don't think so.
no.
I don't know for sure.
We'll find out
where
next
did it start?
episode.
In Egypt, obviously, idiot. Indonesia's nowhere close to Egypt.
I don't know why you were
It took
trying
me
to,
so long to
I didn't
realize
think you
that.
were thinking geographically. I thought you were trying to think like, oh, did they shoot it? It was something
Oh,
over
did
there.
they shoot it there?
There's no way they'd go to Indonesia.
I don't know. It was a different time back then.
Should we go,
Late
should we go
90s.
to a desert or should we go to Indonesia?
Wouldn't surprise me if they shot some stuff in Wadi Rum.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
No, that was before Wadi Rum was so popular.
I did have a question for
Go
you.
ahead. Yeah.
Oh.
Does it bother you that the
Yes.
the group is the Fireflies and there's not a single reference to the brown coat?
No, I understand. I understand because it goes along with the,
Yeah.
look, when darkness look for us or whatever like that.
Yeah.
But,
Just like
I do think Fireflies,
Just one.
brown
like,
coats every time I
yeah,
think of
just throw in one
of them
coat.
need to be
That's
wearing
it.
a brown coat or something.
That's it. That's
That
all
would
I
be
want.
nice.
I'm trying to think if they did that in the game at all.
I don't think so either. So I was irritated then.
I shot a lot. I killed a lot of people in the game. I'm sure one was wearing a brown coat.
I'm sure. If not, I'll just Photoshop it on or something like that. I really thought Tess really looks like that. What's her face? From Hereditary, Tori, the mom from Hereditary.
Yeah,
she looks so
you're
much
right.
like her. I thought at the beginning, I really thought it was her.
Interesting. I didn't make that connection.
Tony Collette or Coletti.
Oh yeah, you're right. I wrote Tori.
Oh well.
like
I know
it's like a
ends
halfway
and ours
form
are
gun.
very ends and ours are very similar and they're real close.
Back to that cold open. It was such an amazing cold open for the people that have played the games and and are viewing the show for the first time because they introduced this whole other backstory of they put in a new perspective of the horrifying events of what this can actually mean.
Yes.
Like they wrote it so well. Like all the lines they said. Like
And she did a good job too.
so good.
Fantastic.
Especially even at the end, being like,
Yes.
"What should we do? Bomb Start
it.
bombing."
Yeah, bomb everything.
We're fucked.
It's like
I would like
if
to go be
I'd
with
like
my
to be with my
now.
family. Yeah, like
and that was the
that's-
last thing she wanted. There's the only thing she wanted to do is be with the ones
Yeah,
that she
bomb.
loves.
She wanted to bomb.
Well, of course she
Yeah.
does.
So
Who
that's not
doesn't?
the only thing she wanted to
The
do.
last thing she wanted to do was be with somebody she loves, which plays in the theme of the entire show is
Yeah.
love. and caring and learning to cope with new reality.
Yeah.
But you're right. It sets up this different way of looking at things, and I love how the military official is not just that stereotypical no, I'll tell you what we're doing.
Yeah.
He's the one seeking her out. He wants answers. He wants
the
to
scientific
know.
expert saying bomb the shit out of everything right now.
And you can see his lip
Yep.
quiver right before she says that, and like he is horrified and terrified and afraid, and he's like, anything, I will do whatever it takes. There's got to be something we can do. I love that. It's
One thing that want to point out, though, is that that's the introduction of one of the big changes they made to the game versus the show, was that the infected have those little...
the tendrils or whatever they are
come out of their mouths. That is not a thing in the game.
It's horrifying.
I liked it until they started making out.
That rubbed me the wrong way, too.
That was super fucking weird.
Yeah,
and
I didn't like
understand
the...
why they did that.
I might be able to we'll get to
The
that at
kiss
the end
of
of the
death
episode.
thing.
Yeah, I'm wondering.
It just didn't resonate the same with me because in the game they're just so violent and like that kiss of death was just so. But I get why. Like Reed, I'll shout out to Reed. He explained it to me in the sense of like
we don't talk about Reed here.
Okay, shout out to the person that we're not naming. He explained to me that it's like, but they knew that she was infected because they're one organism.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, but I personally, I like the aesthetic of just the violence and like how, like the sheer terror of how like quickly and everything.
But then that
happens.
also goes with a second you get bit, you're one of them.
Right.
So I assume then you'd be able to infect anyone immediately then too.
Right.
I mean, that goes along with
Probably.
apparently the second
But
you get bit.
Does that's the thing they don't explain is like, does that matter if like are they called tendrils?
I think
the
so.
stringy things.
I think
like
so.
Like are those
Sex
the
tendrils?
things? Sex tendrils when they penetrate you.
You had to go there. You had to go there.
You beat Brandon.
Is that like how are those tendrils that spreads because of the bites, or is it the actual bites, saliva, blood? Like,
That's something that I wish that
sure.
we could find out, and maybe that's what they'll touch on in the next season. I don't know, but that
maybe
that is
episode
very
3 they
interesting.
talk about it. I don't know.
I assume it's the tendrils themselves and not just
That's
the
what I kinda
saliva.
figured.
But again, who knows?
So after the city, they
Mhm.
want a bomb. She wants to go to which I thought was great.
Mhm.
I did not watch the title screen. But then it jumps to, do you want to talk about the lighting that they did in that first opening scene? It was fantastic.
Are you talking about the cold open?
No, after the cold open,
When Ellie's laying in
Waking
the
up.
fetal position,
she's in
looking like an
another-
embryo.
Yep. I mean, I don't know. Yes, I guess.
She
I
is
didn't see.
in,
I didn't know.
like,
I didn't,
fetal position.
I
kinda
was
thing,
so.
yeah.
So I'm saying is they cut the screen in half, and she's in the light.
Pool of light, and then they're in the shadows.
And she's in the light, in the color, and they're in the shadow. And even to the extent of they're in the shadow, they're like, we don't trust you. We should kill you. All this stuff.
Yeah.
Even Joel wants to kill her with like immediately.
Yep.
Um.
Or is ready to.
Well,
Maybe not
I mean,
wants to.
He
but
hasn't
is
accepted,
ready
I
to.
guess, the change that happened last episode that nobody told him. But so he wants to kill all that stuff. And then when Tess is the one that buries, she's the one that walks across
Yes.
into the light. And then so she
Well,
walks.
she's literally
crosses
like
to his
halfway
side.
between, I think, if I remember correctly,
Well, I
blocking
think
wise.
she eventually she like, I think when she buys in to what Ellie's saying and is like, I'm not gonna turn. I am this. I think she crosses all the way over and like crouches in front of her
And
and
that's
stuff,
such
into
a
like
great,
a fetal
Yeah,
position.
Yeah,
Well-
and that's just planning everything out.
That was gorgeous.
Well, from a blocking standpoint and composition standpoint, because even by the end of that scene, they're shooting Tess and Ellie in a 2-shot together in the frame, and then Joel's alone in his own side.
Yep.
So that you're right. That scene blocking and everything else wise is like it's done really well.
And that it's those kind of details, those kind of things that you can talk about frame wise and artistically that separate this kind of media, TV show, movie, whatever, from lesser quality ones. That's kind of the things that I pick up on or I look for. Maybe I don't get right away. I love talking about them. I love that you brought that up because I didn't catch that. So, but it's there where in, lesser quality products, it's just,
Yeah.
why am I watching this?
Well,
There's no
that's-
subtext. There's not another layer to this.
I feel like that stuff is like, we kind of notice that sometimes. I mean, not always, because
Right.
I mean, you didn't notice it,
Nah,
but
true.
not like
True.
point somebody out, but it's like, but it's a stuff that happens where you don't realize it.
Mm-hmm.
Sound effects or scores happen and you don't hear it because it is good. It's like blends into
Yeah.
everything until
Yeah.
you start diving deep into stuff, then you realize that's why I like that scene so much.
Well, that's the beauty of the medium altogether, is that it's like, if you've done if you've done a good job, the audience subconsciously notices these things. Even if they realized it or not, you're just like, you could tell that Tess joined in on that side, whether you were like, oh yeah, they were in the same shot together, or the lighting was all on them. Like, you just know it, even if you don't know it.
Yep. But so this episode really felt to me like, and people can, I don't know if you guys agree or disagree with this, but as a whole, okay, well, no mind then.
Yeah.
Jeff, disagree, agree?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll say it first.
Yeah.
So I feel like as a whole, this episode was much of like the very opening was Joel. Then we got more of an intro into the universe. Then this is more of an intro, I feel like, to Tess than anybody. Yeah. She's like very protective of Ellie. It's really setting up this like family dynamic they're going to have. And then they kill her off. And I really like it because to me, it doesn't feel like Tess has a complete story arc. Like if you were to write down what we know about her and all this stuff, I feel like it didn't come to a nice buttoned up close, but which I think is perfect. It was like, not everybody has a perfect arc.
Yeah.
So
they ended very well. Like she sets off the universe and stuff like that. But
not everybody gets closure.
We had more to learn about her. She was going to be her mom, all that stuff, and then it's gone.
What could have been, and not everybody gets closure either.
I mean, I agree with that to the extent that it feels like almost short-lived that we didn't get to know her character too much. But I almost kind of disagree with her character arc because when we meet Tess, I feel like her and Tess are on this. Joel
Tess and Tess, yeah, I get you.
Tess squared. I feel like Joel and Tess are on the same side. Like they know each other, they understand each other. They like they just they think of the world the same way, right?
Yeah.
But then even in that scene that we discussed, Tess sways over a little more towards Ellie's side. She starts to believe that this is actually something that can happen, and ultimately by the end of the episode, she believes it. She's dying,
fully.
And she tells Joel, you got to do something about this.
It's time to get on board.
That is the arc that I see from her character.
I mean, I agree. Like to me, that's more of like the episode arc, but and it's not an insult by any means. Is
to me or Tess?
Both of you. Well, you a little bit. Tess definitely not.
Mostly you.
But as a whole, though, but like I feel like they set up the family that it's going to be a family. You could see where this would be going if she didn't die, and she was a connection, kind of like. Ellie to Joel. If Tess wasn't there, Ellie probably wouldn't even still be with Joel. Joel would have ditched her. Joel would have brought her back, and Tess really kicks all that off. And there was more to learn about her. There's more, I feel like, developing that whole family, and then they took that away quickly.
Yeah. Well, you're right. Like there are like almost like motherly, daughterly moments, like when they're on the rooftop and pointing out like again the fungus thing as a single entity is different from the game, but like that little moment of just like teaching her things on what the world is like and stuff.
Yes.
You're right.
I mean, and walking. I don't know if that's what you were talking about earlier. Is Tess and Ellie are together in single shot, right?
Yep.
In a 2-shot, and then Joel is
Joel's still in the back,
but also how far they're spaced apart, like. They're together and he's kind of hanging back.
Yep.
And it's very interesting how quickly they bond for whatever reason. If it's
fucking women, right, guys?
Fucking women, always bonding.
Also, it sets up
some kind of sympathy with that, or
it sets up also that just everybody in Ellie's life dies.
Yeah.
Don't get close to Ellie. Other than Joel, everybody dies.
Yeah.
But that being said, the first moment that we actually see Joel and Ellie start to like get a little bit closer is that clicker scene when they introduce the clickers.
So that's
I thought it was even earlier than that.
Really?
Yeah.
What part do you think?
In the hallway when Tess climbs through the rubble to open the door.
Ellie even was like, I'll do it, and Tess is like, no, you're too small. If you die, we don't mean get paid.
Yeah,
it feels like it's small stuff was like kind of tough love. Like, it definitely would be most logical that she should go, but she's new at this.
Yeah,
yes,
she can't do this yet. She's not that level yet.
Right.
Yes.
But that moment that left Joel and Ellie alone for the first time.
They have the little small talk.
Right. Well, maybe not the first
starts.
time that they're alone together, but the first time they're forced to be alone together. So Joel then tries to connect with her, and she throws it back in his face, just because he was a dick to her in the apartment. And so it's that interesting dynamic of, I don't like you, you don't want me here, clearly, so fuck you.
See, I feel like that scene to me was just more of them dealing with each other, and like they're just like, well,
they're very
it's just us right now, so
personalities.
how you doing, I guess. kind of thing.
Because Joel's a dick too.
Yeah.
Like they're both dicks to each other.
Yes.
And I feel like just really shows. It's another just like the other, like him killing somebody. It's like they are more similar than either of them really want to admit, and you can kind of slowly start. Even though, you know, they probably didn't get done with that interaction and went, oh, that person's so much like me.
Yeah.
But like we are slowly getting it. It just stacks on top of each other.
Bit
the
of a
reason
connection.
I bring up the clickers moment specifically, though, is because literally that's when Joel and Ellie are like fighting for their lives.
I think
and he
that's
pretty
when
much like almost he protects her in that moment.
Yes.
That's the first touch on it.
It's just, it's another like expanded version of him stepping in front of between him and her and the gun.
soldier.
Yeah, it's the first big step.
Yeah,
I would
and
say.
he again, he's very protective, teaching her what to do. She learns, you know, what clickers can't see, all that stuff. Which this is also not just like it was kind of like a Tess and Ellie episode, but it was more of a intro to zombies, also the infected in general. You talk a lot, you get a lot more about it. The hordes, like that they're all connected. We see a clicker, we see normal ones more than anything else.
Yeah.
Well, and even the questions that Ellie asks, they're not just exposition. Like it helps the character learn to be able to grow as well. But they're great questions. You know, I've never even considered how long do the infected live once they're bitten. That's a fantastic question, and I love that there is an answer for it. They actually,
There was no fucking answer.
Well,
he was like, some 20 minutes, some 20 years. Like that. Yeah, that's not a fucking answer.
Well, so
you
from
can say I don't know,
always
man.
it depends.
You
No,
can say I don't know.
Well, from the game standpoint, in the second game,
he didn't play the game.
Well, we're getting there. But in the second game, they explained that once, like after a certain point, they become clickers, and then the rarer form of the ones that live even longer. It's like there are bloaters out there. Not very many people have seen them. Not very many people have survived seeing a bloater, but we have seen them.
But they also touch on wait, you survived a clicker? You survived two of them? So they later on they set that up as well. Yeah. But the way that the exposition is done is just very cleverly threaded through.
Yeah.
I also like that because there are so many rumors, it also kind of muddles that line of who do you trust, right? There's so much misinformation out there, so many rumors, nothing can really be verified because, you know, who knows, unless you're in that situation, and you might not even be able to trust yourself and what of what you saw because you're, you know, so frightened, you're so heightened, your senses are so heightened in that moment, you might not be able to remember everything. So it just kind of, again, builds the world as well.
And then also just a quick shout out to the, like, on a technical side, to the hair, makeup, prosthetics team. Man, they made those clickers look so good.
Absolutely.
Like they had different designs for the clickers based on the game, but
I
then
didn't
they
even
made it
play
look
the game,
so
looked good.
real. In the
So
show.
it looked a lot like the game also.
It was like exactly like what in the game, but in a more hyper realistic way because it was, you know, practical effects on a show.
Yeah.
Fucking great.
Just fantastic. And like you said, that they weren't the exact same, just duplicated. Like there are differences and nuances to each one. And it's beautiful in that regard.
Yeah. So good.
Along with the clicker, the sound was amazing for them.
Have you seen the behind the scenes of people doing the noises?
I don't think it was this one. It wasn't this episode, I think it's a later episode because I've watched it before. But yeah, I also love them walking around like chickens. It's clearly a chicken, right? Am I crazy? Right, dude. It's like,
Okay.
It is
chicken. Chicken fungi.
Bat chicken.
Sure.
Man, bear, pig, but
also real quick,
chicken.
just
half bat, half chicken.
I do like how do you feel about the CG of like the city and stuff? There was one or two shots that I didn't like, but overall I think I loved it.
I really enjoyed it.
I also love it way more than QZ shit.
Absolutely.
We could never be in a city again.
I love seeing like portrayals of the apocalypse, but the flag render at the very end of the episode, I thought was horrible. Everything else I thought was very, very well done, very detailed. And I'm always curious about how accurate something like that would actually be, because I think that they did a really good job. That most of the buildings, the structures are still going to be standing in different forms of decay.
I'm impressed that one building fell over, hit the other building, and that one didn't fall.
Yep.
So
Right?
it's actually
Strong as
great
fuck.
that you brought that up.
Decade.
9/11 was an inside
It's great
job.
that you brought that up because that's at the end of episode 1 that they show that building leaning on the other building, right?
Yep. At night. But then they show it
Yes.
again.
Well,
But also,
sorry,
I was going to go with the dominoes.
I'm in my own joke over here.
but anyways, based on the game, you actually go into those buildings, and it's actually really interesting because you're running up sides like in angles and shit like that. They completely skipped over that entire part
Wow.
in the show.
Yeah, to maybe jump into some shit we'll talk about in the future, but they could have padded this shit, and I would have loved them doing that. Like you instantly said that, and that sounds amazing to
Yeah.
me. Them crawling up sideways.
Well, I don't
doing
even
all
know
that
why they
stuff.
incorporated it into the end of episode 1 because as a game player and viewer, I was like, oh shit, they're going into those buildings next
Yeah.
episode, and then they didn't even touch
they
them.
just
Well, they
tease
went
it. They
into
just
some
tease it.
buildings, but like a normal
Yeah.
building, like
Yeah, level
Also,
buildings.
we made fun of it. We made who walks in a level?
Yeah, horizontal.
I want to point out because in fairness, we made fun of 65 when they did this, but Last of Us also, the building perfectly collapsed on the other side of the door.
Oh, yeah.
Nothing else
Yep.
collapsed. Perfectly
Yeah.
like blocked their way. I'm like, that's not gonna happen. Like that's some
Right,
bullshit.
yeah, that
but
absolutely is like, wow,
when-
that's
when
coincidental.
stuff's good, you
kinda
let that
forgive it.
crap go.
You kind of
in
forgive those little
storytelling, it happens.
things. Yeah, well,
It's happened before.
I'm pretty sure that stuff like that happens in the game all the time.
Yeah.
And it's a point of no return, right?
Yeah.
You cross a threshold and you cannot turn back. No matter what, you have to push forward. So yes, it is cheesy as that is. Absolutely.
I'm just saying, we made fun of 65 when they did it.
Okay.
I just want to make
as
fun of
lazy
everybody.
as this writing is.
So
Don't let Craig Mason hear you say that.
Seriously, like I kind of I'm hoping that's omitted.
I'll have words for him.
We're getting him.
we'll
I'm
talk-
starting to get
we'll
itches.
talk
I
about
haven't-
him next
I haven't said
episode.
his name in the last
Episode
15 minutes. It's
Anyway, so I want to jump to some differences between the video game and the show. What I heard somewhere was Tess was not in the game as much as she was in the show.
Yeah.
I felt like they expanded a little bit.
Yeah.
And when they're running from the military and not the infected.
In that building, yes.
Yes.
Does
Does she get killed by the military?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it is
So
in
it
the
is
same way
shot
that
there.
Sarah gets shot.
Well,
Not the
I wouldn't
same way.
say
She doesn't
visually.
get,
Like
no
you
kiss of death.
in the game, you run off because like Tess is like, "Get the fuck out of here! I'll hold them off." And you go up to the ceiling area in the rounded area, and you can literally see her starting to shoot back at the people,
Mhm.
and then you just hear the shooting stop
Hmm.
as you keep running and bailing.
Interesting.
So yeah, that's a big
The
difference.
show is definitely better.
I agree. I think that the show gives the ending
Let's
much
talk
more
about the kiss
oomph.
of death.
That's fair. Touche. Good point. Good point. Damn it. Come on, Brandon. Bring up a good point on my side.
Shit. Sound was really good. The
Thank you.
clickers were.
Yeah, see, Jeff?
I can be a clicker.
Whoa, that was terrifying. Now my headphones work.
Did you guys?
Check 1 2.
We are recording. I already checked. How do we feel about? I like that this episode we really got to see the start and the beginning of the Ellie Joel banter, where even jumping into the water and it's like, no, dumbass, it's just not this. It's not this.
I don't know how I was supposed to know that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That. I think that's funny. Her going up. I feel like I've seen that. This is
You're a weird kid.
a lot more in the game of her doing like stuff that they did before the breakout, where she like ran up to the front desk of the hotel and was like, "Oh,
like,
I
oh,
want ding
yep.
ding ding."
Yeah.
Like,
Hello, I'd like a room, please.
yeah, I feel like that was a lot in the game also. That
So much of that was in the game, and I really appreciate those details.
How do you
Yeah.
feel about the frog
I
playing the
loved
piano?
it. That was literally a note. I love that the practical use of the sound of the score was done by the things in
thought
that
it was
inhabited the world. I thought it was great, and it also was another plant and quickly paid off. Because then when the body falls, there's a reason for that done,
Yep.
because she falls into the piano. So it's so beautifully set up that it's like, oh, that's kind of cute and funny. But then you kind of, it's already in your mind. So when something happens, it's not a shock or a surprise because it's already baked in. I loved it. I love that little frog. I hope that
I know.
he's
I have the frog playing the score.
oh my God. I hope that he goes on to do so many more scores because
I do feel like this episode was definitely more.
Can I bring up one more change that they did
No, you
from the
cannot,
game
but
to the
thank you.
show?
So I feel like this episode. No, go ahead, Joe. Go ahead.
One other big change that they did from the game to the show in this episode was the single organism fungi connection that was not established in the game to the extent of what happens in episode 2, where Joel like kills one infected and then it translates to the rest of that big group that they saw earlier in the episode. That does not happen in the games. And
also, I think they said in the game you can get infected through the air.
Yes,
they took out the spores.
And that was how Joel accepted that Ellie was immune, is because they walked through a spore field.
Yes,
and she
doesn't need a gas mask.
Yeah, she's fine.
Ah, heard.
And I don't know how I feel. Like, I don't mind the single cell organism thing, but I did like the spore thing from the game because it's almost like a sense of like you go down underneath the ground and you see spores. You're like, oh shit, there's some bad shit down here. Like, it's been infected for a very long time.
Longer than
Do they need to then start wearing masks and stuff?
Yes.
Like gas masks?
Yes, non-infected people have to wear gas masks.
Which, I mean, as a show-wise, I understand why they wouldn't want to do that, because you wouldn't have to just have your
but Craig Mazin had them from Chernobyl already. Like,
he said it, not me. He said it, not me.
Dude, as soon as I said gas mask, I was like,
100% was going to bring it up if
you're
Geoff
paying,
didn't.
shut up. If you're paying your Pedro Pascal a bunch of money, I don't want to cover his gorgeous face.
He's no Tom Hardy. Just kidding. I don't know.
But you can still be attracted to Tom Hardy with the mask on because he's buff.
Are you saying that Pedro Pascal's not buff?
Correct.
Okay.
I like
want to
both
clear
of them
that
just
up.
fine. I just wanted to make a face joke because Tom Hardy went through definitely a phase of just his face was just.
We're just gonna see his eyes.
Yeah, exactly.
I do very much agree with that.
Also, with I love that we get to the horde and like it's introduced of, oh wow, they're all one organism, but they're fascinating to watch, and just kind of how the light, like, they're kind of following the light as well. And it's just this almost amazement and wonder, and there's almost no danger because they're so far away. Which then, once you do step on something, then or trigger it, it's, oh shit, here it actually comes. And anyone who's played a zombie video game knows when that horde is coming at you, it's fucking
You're in for
horrifying. And you better be ready for a fight, or
or like Tess, just drop a ton of grenades and gasoline everywhere and light that fucking lighter.
Yeah, but that doesn't always work. Did you play Days Gone?
Oh, I haven't.
Dude, Days Gone is great, but it deals with hordes in that same kind of way where, there's ways to light them on fire, but there's so fucking many of them that it only kills a certain number of them.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, man.
I'm really curious to know.
I played Stardew Valley.
I'm really
curious. How many zombies does that have?
It doesn't really have zombies. It has more slimes.
Cordyceps?
No, just straight up slimes. They look
like
kind
flubber?
Kind of, a little bit, like a little green balls.
Derived from fungi.
But maybe. I'm not sure. They don't get into the backstory. I'm more watering crops and stuff.
We should hire Craig Mazin to write something for it.
As long as it's like Chernobyl.
I didn't say it. I'm the only one so far who hasn't mentioned it.
You pointed at me way before I even said it. Okay, so
real quick, I am genuinely curious. Yes, I know we were goofing off with Days Gone, but I'm genuinely curious how many that explosion would have actually killed, and how many were in that horde because of that. Maybe it's just because I've played different games. How effective would that actually be?
Yeah, I don't know. Just depends how fast. Because I remember in the shot, when that one starts to turn towards Tess, there are some other ones just booking it still.
I was going to say, a bunch of them ran right by her.
Yeah, so
which goes with they knew she was infected.
Right, but point.
And back to that, what did you guys think of the kiss of death?
It was creepy and horrifying and sad, but
I was so aroused for some reason. No, I like it when you explain that. I get it, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But I did not. I personally didn't like it. To me, it's like one of those where I understand it makes sense in the world, and all of that is logical from A to B to C. But someone at some point need to look and go, yeah, we don't need this.
Yeah.
I feel like we don't need this.
I agree. When I saw that for the first time, I just I don't know if it was. It's interesting that from your perspective of not playing the games, that you have that feeling too. Because me playing the games, I thought that might have been the reason I felt this way, but it just didn't feel like it matched the aesthetic of how violent and crazy these infected fungi are. It just all of a sudden felt like
it's like
it felt intelligent or something. I don't know.
Absolutely. It felt like, I'm going to slowly walk up to this woman that I know she's going to be one of us.
Yeah.
Let me start connecting. If they're that intelligent, they should have looked down and saw like, a fucking lighter in her hand.
Yeah.
It smells like lighter fluid.
Bitch, before I kiss you, I'm going to smack this out of your hand.
Just give you a little love tap.
I'm gonna. I don't know. I was gonna come up with a joke about sparking something.
So, all right. So to jump in and try and see if I can explain it to you from my perspective, and then also what I learned from the creators is
what the creator usually tells him turns into his perspective.
Ooh.
So the way that it was shot was very soft, very very light focused, very romantically done to really kind of emphasize that it was like that two lovers were about to embrace and kiss but no, it's really fucking horrifying and disgusting what it's doing. But the creators thought of it in a way that the fungus is alive and is, at least intelligent in the way that it wants to reproduce.
Yeah.
So in that way, they liken it to love and the way that love helps humans want to reproduce. And so what this fungus does is want to reproduce. It might be disgusting and it might be different.
I don't like that.
If I was a fun guy, I would just ignore her.
Why aren't you a fun guy? Are you a boring guy?
I actually like that. That was nice. Fist bump. Here you go. Ready? Idiot.
If I wasn't like if I was one of, let's say, like just putting myself in this world
as a zombie or
as one of the infected.
Okay, I heard her.
If I knew she was infected, I'd be like, oh, she's infected. I'm gonna keep going after these guys because I want to get infected these guys.
Right.
So I wouldn't have cared.
That one was horny though. But it's
hoary.
Hey, all right, that was it, guys. Thank you so much. Now, to me, it's weird to think that they want to reproduce, and it's like, and to me, it is all they care about is eating. Like they're just, the rage virus.
But it's not eating; it's reproducing.
Well, but I mean, like attacking, like violence, like attack.
I think
that's all I want.
Thing, yeah,
I understand that, but like when you turn it to reproduce versus just like attacking, reproducing, then that makes sense. Like that fits with the reproduce version. But to me, it's just not so much like reproduce. I understand it's a byproduct of reproducing is a byproduct of the violence and attacking.
Yeah.
But I don't think of it as the same thing.
Yeah, for this, I don't know. I just don't like the way how they to the extent of how they romanticized it. I would have almost appreciated it more if it was along the lines of how Alien is, like when those face huggers, like they're just very violent. Like they're doing the same thing, but they just like literally jump on a person, and then it's just a very violent way to like reproduce.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's I would have felt better about it if it was a little more like that versus like the slow embrace. It just didn't feel like it matched the aesthetic for me.
So I also like it that it gave the opportunity to kind of propel the show forward a little bit, because the mantra was for the Fireflies, look for the light, right? That was the whole thing, is there's got to be hope. And now that Tess is dying and we're going to jumpstart the Joel and Ellie phase, this is Joel's chance to redeem himself. Like, he's not going to save his daughter, but that's what he wants. He wants to save his daughter, even though she's been dead for 20 years. This is the second chance he gets. And Tess realizes that, so she says, save who you can save. And not just meaning Ellie, but you and Ellie are alive, and there are other humans who are alive. So you need to focus on the present and moving forward and let go of the past, because you have a chance to actually do something.
He will ignore that at the end, but anyway.
Well, he will, absolutely.
You can also look at that in a more broader term, too, in the sense of like, save who you can save. If you save this girl, we could be saving everybody.
Everybody else, exactly. But in a way, he doesn't necessarily turn his back on that at the very end. He does save who he feels he can save. He saves
killing
Ellie.
Everybody?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. Oh, I agree. I know what you're thinking, and I know where you're going with that. But he saves who he can save.
He could save a lot of people.
Yeah, he could.
By not killing everybody.
By letting one person die, he potentially could. So.
Are we still talking about episode 2?
I don't know
No,
anymore.
we're not. Okay. He went back to it. I was just...
Yeah, okay.
Another thing that I wanted to mention from the beginning of this episode is we were talking about episode 1 and how Ellie has to hold out her hand because to prove that she's not shaky from being infected. Well, Joel, breaks his hand or fractures his hand from it, and it shakes the entire time. And it's kind of interesting how that is an indicator that you're infected but not, that's an indicator
I
that
get
people
where
pay
you're going with
attention
that.
to.
Like I get
And-
this subtle insinuation. of what
Yeah,
that
an
means.
insinuation that maybe there's not something quite right about him.
Right.
Yeah, I didn't see his handshaking. I did see hers when I don't know if it was after the reveal or before the reveal that she had been bit. I saw her handshaking, but I did not see his.
Gotcha.
Interesting.
Gotcha. Yeah. So
It definitely
interesting
was
details.
more horror style than
much more horror.
episode
style.
1.
Yeah.
Shut up, Geoff. Episode 1 or even episode 2, episode 3 to poke ahead a little bit, but it was definitely more horror shot style than anything else.
I absolutely agree. Like I played the game, watched the episode twice, and still I was afraid for those characters, and it was really it gave me a lot of anxiety to watch that clicker scene, and I thought it was very well done.
Yeah. Even from being a game player perspective, watching this show, even though you know where it's gonna go, it's still a ride. And that's why, again, going back to those cold opens, I think those cold opens were amazing from a game player perspective. But then they're nuancing some other stuff differently that keeps me engaged as a game player and a new viewer, which is really fun.
Yeah, and I think it walks a beautiful line of inclusion of those who have played and those who haven't played, which I don't know how you guys felt about the Dungeons and Dragons movie because we haven't talked about it too much together. So because that was something that I've been thinking about while that's an adaptation of a game. How true is it to the source material? Where this is an adaptation that's very true, very close to it.
There are also two very different styles.
Very different
about
things
to
to
say-
do. Very
but-
different ways to do it. But
well, it's a different style movie, and I understand what you're saying, but then also Dungeons and Dragons is not like necessarily a strict storyline that
Right.
everybody plays the exact same version, the exact same story every single time you do it. I
True,
understand
true.
Last of Us, it's kind of an open world a little bit, so you have different interactions and stuff, but Dungeons and Dragons is more of just like, here's a skeleton, go have whatever world you want to build.
Like I don't play Dungeons
Alright.
and Dragons, but my impression of it is that you get this, like you design this world kind of, and you as the dungeon master create the story for your characters.
Yeah.
Sure. Well, but we could have done that, or they could have done that with The Last of Us. They could have changed a lot more than they did and made it their own thing.
Yeah.
So it's just an interesting way to look at an adaptation.
Yeah, but to be fair, if they would have done that, I think it would have not been nearly as successful. Because
I
the
would
game
agree.
was done so well already.
I would absolutely agree with you.
Like it would have been atrocious.
It would have been interesting.
Would not have done. It would have been a disservice. I would say.
Yeah.
So.
Because there's other movies that try to adapt games and everything like that, and they do veer more often than not. They veer too far off from the game, and it just becomes like garbage, honestly.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep,
I mean,
exactly.
it depends because it's like you can take it the path of I want to make a movie that even if you have or haven't played the game, someone will enjoy this.
Yes.
And it's like if
Yes.
you did play the game, you'll get some small like Easter eggs here and there.
Yeah.
But it's a story on its own and it's a movie on its own.
Yeah, and I haven't liked those in the past because I'll just say this: I'm a huge Resident Evil fan, and when those Resident Evil movies came out, they just kept getting worse and worse. Like they threw in like monsters and other things, but they changed the story so much that I was just like,
I mean, it's hard for me.
Bummer.
Joe. I don't play a lot of, as we said, Stardew Valley.
Yeah.
Dude, they make a Minecraft movie. I mean,
sure
I'll
that'll
give
be
your opinion on
coming
that. Stardew Valley.
the type of game player I am is I play those like single player, very storyline driven games, and so when they adapt those games and then change it, and after I've already really liked the story, it just feels so
Did you-
disheartening.
Did you play Uncharted?
I didn't play Uncharted actually.
Did you watch the movie?
I did.
How'd you think the movie,
The movie was fun.
to the game?
I don't know.
I know. Really backfired that you hadn't played that, so I
Yeah.
was just gonna power through that. Anyways, you're done?
Oh, yeah.
You good?
Alright, yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah.
Thank you for sticking to the script this time.
I can see your. I'm just reading off of it. So our first recording, I really want to do the first episode 1 and 2 because I mean, it might be different between people who've played the game and I haven't played the game. It really felt like this was a very well connected first 2 episodes.
Mhm.
It was a very good arc of like, I see where we are. I feel like this is fully where like the first act, really the final of the first act. We set up the world. We set up some history. We'll get some
Yeah.
more backstory
Yeah.
coming up, but I got enough at the moment. I know where we are, and I'm so excited for the future.
Right, because you know the character's motives, you know
Yep.
why, where we're at least the general direction we're heading. I think it did a very, very good job of setting up exactly that of the danger of the world, but also, hey, look, there is a way to survive this. It's just we have to be crafty about it. We got to be careful with it. And then they also have this dynamic between the characters themselves.
Yeah, and up to the end of episode 2, they smaller nuances aside, they did follow the game structure and storyline pretty closely.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well.
All right. Well, so that's going to be everything for the first Last of Us series. I'm not sure if I'll make up a name or some shit.
Cool.
We'll find out if there is a name. Just guys, look at the top.
Not zombies.
No, I promise moving forward, it's not going to be necessarily as long, but we're going to go based off of what story arc. So the next episode that comes out we'll just cover episode 3 alone, and then move forward. We might do 4 and 5. And we need to figure out exactly the structure. And so everybody keep an eye out on Sundays moving forward. Is Last of Us stuff will start coming out.
Yeah, and if there's anything else you guys want us to cover or anything that you thought we missed or anything interesting you found in the show, definitely let us know. Drop some comments, give us some tweets, send us some emails, hit up Geoff. Geoff likes emails.
I was saying, Geoff and I were talking before, what would be the best, because like I said, I didn't get feedback from anybody that listens other than, Geoff. And so, what would be the best way for people to, if they do want to tell me, I'm doing a shitty job or you're doing a shitty job.
We
already know Geoff is doing it. We already know Jeff's doing a shitty job. We don't need to hear it.
We don't need, we know. We're trying. I would say go ahead and we have a Facebook page. We're at What We Watched on Facebook. We have a Twitter page as well. That's probably the best place to get at us quickly at watched_podcast.
The link should be in the description. I kind of had an issue. I think they changed kind of how to format it, but I'll figure it out. It should be in the description also.
Gotcha. Perfect. Do you guys have anything else?
I got nothing else. Everybody, fans, if you see somebody walking slowly towards you, some tentacle shits coming out of their mouth, I would say just take a couple steps back. But to each their own.
Yeah.
Do what you want.
If you want to feel what.
Yeah, or if you're looking for more friends, that's the best way to do it.
Well, Jeff's infected, so we should probably get out of here before he